Dragon Clan. Mingfei Returns from Warhammer 40,000. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyright or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76 Paradise. The bite of the chainsaw sword caused Deadpool's body to tremble violently, but how could such a sinful and ugly life be executed obediently? Mingfei was naturally aware of this, especially under the foreshadowing of perfect timing. Every move of the alien was predicted in his mind 5 seconds in advance. He drew out the chainsaw sword stained with black blood, took 2 steps to the side, and drew out the Jinyu grey sword behind him with his other hand. The cold silver sword edge flashed, and the 2 bone claws of the alien that pierced the air with a scream and wanted to tear itself apart were cut off by the sword arc drawn by Jinyu. The sharpness of the alchemical weapon was fully displayed at this moment, and the bronze scales that could withstand most of the impact and high temperature of Junyan were as fragile as paper. The serpentine Deadpool's cry became more and more shrill, and the chest injury and the loss of both claws did not dispel its violent desire to attack. It lowered its body, and its thick tail like a python tightly wrapped around Mingfei's waist. It seemed to want to rush out of the sea like in ancient times, dragging the ancestors on the ship into the sea with its tail. The devilish and hideous side exploded in their minds like lightning. But Mingfei's body stood still, as firm as an iron tower. The body of the alien fell to the ground with a snap, and the blood scabs dried by the high temperature of Junyan shattered into pieces. The tail vertebrae supporting its body were cut off by the Jinyu greatsword. As a predator, the alien's strangulation was obviously unqualified. It failed to bind the prey's arms together, making the opponent lose the ability to resist. Mingfei's hands that were holding the fierce soldier were still free to move. At this moment, its identity became the executed. Mingfei stepped on the mutilated body of the alien, and the chainsaw sword in his hand made a fierce roar again. May the Empire purify your polluted soul. He looked at the pale and beautiful human face that flashed briefly when the alien closed its bloody mouth, and whispered softly. Then, the chainsaw sword chopped down on its head, and the roar became even sharper and more piercing. Fingor, did you find anything? Mingfei examined the chain blade calmly and found that many of the saw teeth had obvious cracks. Although the alien's body was as fragile as tofu wrapped in paper in front of the Jinyu greatsword, compared with the artificial chainsaw sword, the toughness of the alien's body was immediately reflected. Speaking of which, Mingfei was also very puzzled. Before setting off, he planned to awaken the machine soul for the painted chainsaw sword in his hand. Normally, the simple ceremony of only holy incense and chanting poems on the rainy night awakened the machine soul within a few minutes. This time he was well prepared, with all the items such as holy incense, holy oil, and pure mark, so it shouldn't take too long to awaken the machine soul. As a result, Mingfei chanted binary poems praising the machine soul for a whole day, and the chainsaw sword on the table did not move at all. For this reason, he almost doubted whether he was not pious enough. Do we have to go into this hellhole again? Mingfei was puzzled and had no choice but to give up the idea of awakening the machine soul temporarily. From the time the group of security guards rushed in to support until you went in, I asked Eva to slow down the video frame by frame and didn't find any abnormalities. It's really a ghost. Finger said mysteriously. Shuzaham came over and carried Mura's aim to cut open the thick and huge tail of Deadpool with some effort. When Deadpool's tight and tough muscles were cut open piece by piece, the 2 deformed leg bones that were not completely closed were exposed. Unlike Odin's Deadpool's, its agility and defensiveness have been greatly enhanced. The heretics who made these things have been able to guide their evolution, or deformation. Shuzaham's face was livid. A group of evil heretics, when I find them, I will let them experience the wrath of the Empire firsthand. Mingfei took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. He suddenly recalled the 2 white masks hanging on the glass wall when the alien woke up from the ice. Glad to see you waiting for good news, but they were all destroyed in the explosion of Junyan, leaving only a mess and ashes on the ground. There was also a dark golden metal card. It was not damaged at all in the violent high-temperature explosion of Junyan. This metal card was obviously not an ordinary item. Mingfei picked up the still hot metal card and wiped off the remnants of burnt fabric on it with his thumb. 2 small characters appeared. Guilty and Do. On the other side was a word ghost written in elegant strokes. Fingor, is guilty and Do within our purification range? Mingfei pressed the headset and asked in a deep voice. The blasphemous Emperor heretic has not been eliminated yet, and here comes another sinful heretic who calls himself a ghost. Let me see, it's there. The 6th stop of our purification journey is this underground casino called Jilty and Do. Finkel gave the answer soon. Very good, now we will push its itinerary forward, and we will go there next. They sent me an invitation to purify. Mingfei put away the Jinyu greatsword and walked towards the original entrance without looking back. What about here? Shuzahang asked. Can you blow it up? Yes. Shuzahang probably knew what Mingfei meant, nodded, and then moved his eyes to find the best angle of attack. Next time you see a situation like this that doesn't require translation, you can leave first. Mingfei glanced at the pale-faced Chitsuko, and was a little surprised that this beautiful girl in Kendo school uniform was still staying here stubbornly, except for adding another witness to the battle here. She didn't play any role. KZW_, I know. Chitsuko lowered her head, her voice trembling with fear. She put away all her contempt for the S-class, and at the same time realized how stupid her previous behavior in the car was. The hideous creatures that would scare people with just one look were like cattle and sheep to be slaughtered in front of this young S-class. At this time, in Chitsuko's mind, S-class was already a terrifying figure of the same level as her adopted father in Oyamaka. Have you seen or heard of such a thing before? Mingfei asked. No, I only know that I am a dragon hybrid, and then I was. That's enough. Mingfei waved his hand, prematurely ending the personal story that the translator was about to pour out. The high ancient language sounded behind itself, and Shuzahang was about to release his words again. Let's go, it's time to go to the next stop. About 20 minutes later, the ambiguous pink sign of the Star Curtain nightclub was dyed with red and blue flashing lights, and the open space and streets in front of the gate were filled with police cars and fire trucks. Many tourists and people who wanted to watch were dispersed by the indifferent police, and few people noticed that a group of elves in black windbreakers poured into the Star Curtain nightclub. The second explosion caused panic. The nightclub staff called the police, and the Metropolitan Police Department rushed to seal off the scene. Then the Shekiate used their connections in the police to transfer the scene to the Enforcement Bureau, and announced that the explosion was caused by a gas pipeline leak. The high-pressure water gun extinguished the raging flames, but it failed to cool the scorching heat. The owls quickly surrounded the second underground floor, holding Colt's large-caliber revolver King Cobra, checking and cleaning any possible dangers here. A tall, handsome man with a little softness crouched in front of the burnt tail, his brows furrowed, and the dark red sewage submerged his exquisite soy-now handmade custom leather shoes. Boss, I found out. A man rushed in from outside. This nightclub nominally worships the Mika Society, but its behind-the-scenes boss is a guy named Nate Kazoi Kotaro. A few years ago, he was a gangster selling drugs on the street, and suddenly he got rich and opened a nightclub. Yuan Zishan waved his hand to interrupt him. Speaking of the point, Crow. Is it related to the Ghost Clan? Probably not. This guy is just an ordinary person, probably dead now. I checked the surveillance. This guy entered the room 40 minutes before the bloody incident. Crow said. If it's not a ghost, who could it be? Where did this ghost thing come from? Yuan Zishan grabbed a burnt arm from the ground, and the huge and sharp bone claws made Crow's heart tremble. Groya. A beautiful female secretary in a black suit and plain glasses walked in, holding a file back in her hand. The academy headquarters applied to the branch for the right to connect and use Kaguya-sama a week ago. The Miyamoto family left a procedure and learned that they are tracking down this person's whereabouts. The S-level from the headquarters led the team to Japan this time. It is very likely because of this matter. General Chishin stood up and took the file back from the female secretary. The information inside was exactly Groya. Such a dangerous hybrid has come, and the headquarters didn't know about it at all. The young director of the Executive Bureau, General Chishin, raised his head with a serious expression. The female secretary was silent. Where are the three guys from the headquarters? And the one from the Inoyama family? General Chishin rubbed his temples, and he didn't remember the girl who was held hostage by the three people from the headquarters. Shibasaki Satsuko. The female secretary reminded. Oh yes, and her, do you know their current movements? General Chishin asked. Princess Kaguya is trying to track down the private car of the head of the Inoyama family. The female secretary replied. Those little bastards are so shameless. If it were me who was to receive them, I would break their hands and feet and put them in Tokyo Bay as concrete piles. Crow cursed. The female secretary turned around and glared at him, motioning him to shut up. You may not be their opponent, Crow. The other party is a high-blooded hybrid that can kill this mutant Deadpool. Yuan Zishan poured a bucket of cold water on Crow. We can't let them continue to make trouble in Japan. The affairs of the branch will be handled by the main family themselves. We can't always follow them and clean up their messes. Stop scolding, I'm really trying hard to code. Chapter 77. Sakurai Koga. The black Maybach blended into the darkness, and the headlights turned into two sharp swords piercing the night ahead. It was already 1:20 inches the morning, and the Maybach was running wildly on the Shinto Expressway at a speed of 120 miles per hour. I really didn't realize that you, junior brother, are a man who drives fast. Finkel praised while sitting in the co-pilot seat. Shuzaham did not answer, but just glanced at the GPS, which showed that it was more than 80 kilometers away from Osaka. By the way, I have good news to tell you all. The good brothers of the Japanese branch have officially issued a bounty warrant for the three of us through the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department, accusing us of illegal entry, smuggling arms and kidnapping girls. As long as you see our traces or provide information, our family will provide a reward ranging from 100,000 to 300,000 yen. Finkel felt a little bored and turned around with a playful smile. But no one paid any attention to him. The deputy leader was concentrating on driving, and the leader closed his eyes in deep thought. Only Miss Satsuko, who had been silent all the time, realized that the atmosphere was not right. She lowered her head and whispered, "I'm sorry to bother you." Finkel's smile collapsed immediately. It was too boring to go on a mission with the dull teammates. They couldn't happily complain and talk nonsense together. Then, he turned his attention to the refreshing and beautiful Yamato Najihiko and began to chat with her. Although it felt very strange for a German and a Japanese to communicate in Chinese. "We are almost there." From the windshield of the Maybach, you can see the golden and magnificent pavilions in the mountains that look like palaces in the sky. The hazy golden halo and the bright moon hanging high in the dark night are shining against each other. Even though it is 2:30 inches the morning, there is still a lot of traffic on this winding mountain road, all of which are various expensive luxury cars. The guests are obviously heading for the golden house in the mountains. Jiltiandu, according to the information, it is a casino hidden in the mountains. The deeper you hide, the bigger the fun. There is no upper limit on the stakes on their gambling tables. Although its external information shows that it has been under construction, many Japanese wealthies know that it has been built, but it only has 1 to 3 trial operations per month. Every time it is trial operated, these wealthy people will flock to it, like crazy, bringing tens of millions or hundreds of millions of yen to gamble. Damn, these evil and stupid capitalists. It's better to give me some of the money and give me a few hearty sups instead of losing it for nothing. At least I will say thank you to them for the money. As he spoke, Finkel started to go off topic again. What's the reason? With the identities and assets of these gamblers, any casino can burn money if they want. Why do they have to come here? Shuzaham slowed down the car and slowly moved along the line of cars in front. This is the highlight of paradise. Finkel was excited. According to the chat emails of the rich people collected by Eva, as long as you win enough money, you'll have the honor of meeting Mandora, and she can help you realize any wish. Shuzaham asked. Finkel was stunned, but then realized what Shuzaham was asking and shook his head. No. She. He emphasized, Mandora is a person, not an object. Any wish is fine? Shijinzi asked in a low voice. That rich man said that all wishes, whether legal or illegal, can be bought there as long as you have enough money. How much does that warlike Empire-class Titan cost? It must have the exclusive paint of the Weeper. Lumenfei suddenly asked. Although I don't know what the thing you are talking about is, but I feel that it should be a wish as outrageous as world peace or spending a night with the President of the United States. Finkel was speechless for a moment. How much does that set of indomitable Terminator power armor cost? Then you should ask that Mandela in person later, Captain. The Maybach stopped at the parking lot beside the mountain stream and the small bridge in front of the mountain treasure pavilion. Through the car window, you can see many beautiful girls in classical kimonos smiling and welcoming guests on the stone bridge, not caring at all that the guests leave their handprints on their graceful bodies. There are also handsome waiters with Indian turbans but fair skin who carry luggage for guests back and forth, and occasionally guests leave handprints on them. But compared to this, the wandering men in black suits in front of the house are more noteworthy. They opened their arms, revealing the handles of their guns. They were heavy tactical pistols produced by Israel's HS Precision Company, which can even penetrate the bulletproof vests used by police. The defense looks a bit strict. Finkel whispered, the security system is also a bit awesome. It can be broken, but I can't guarantee that I won't be discovered. They invited me to purify them. I don't need to hide. Mingfei played with the dark golden card in his hand, picked up the chainsaw sword and walked down the main back. The chainsaw sword has been replaced with a new chain blade. This thing is a consumable like a bomb, and can be replaced with a new one at any time. What about us? Xu Zhang asked. Let's wait in the car first and see what kind of welcome ceremony the person who invited me has prepared for me. Mingfei said. He has not yet mastered the scry's gaze ability in the prophecy system, otherwise he can keep everything and everyone in this building in his mind. In this way, there is no need to worry about heretics escaping after alerting the enemy, and there is no need to spend a lot of effort to explore intelligence in advance to avoid brothers getting hurt, just go in through the main gate. Understood. Okay. Mingfei looked at Jinzi again, his expression softened a little. Mr. Translator, please get off the car with me and go with me. Of course, I will do my best to protect your safety. Okay. Jinzi was a little afraid, but she still followed Mingfei out of the car. She hid the double swords under her thighs again, trying to make herself look like a harmless JK. Not long after getting off the car, several men in black suits were attracted by the extremely conspicuous chainsaw sword on Mingfei's waist, holding the handle of the gun with a cold face. Coco, I'm holding a weapon. You can't bring weapons in here. Jinzi stepped forward to translate in time. I was invited. Mingfei showed the dark golden metal card in front of them. The man in the suit's face obviously changed. After saying please wait, he walked aside, as if to inform the top management of the Paradise Pavilion. After a long while, he came back and bowed deeply to Mingfei to express his apology, and made a welcoming gesture to invite him to enter the paradise. It's really interesting, are these heretics so confident? Mingfei's mouth curled up slightly, and his smile was a little cold. It was midwinter, but the cherry blossoms here were in full bloom. The pink petals fell with the cold wind, and the stream carried the pink to the darkness of the paradise that could not be illuminated by the golden mist. The girls in kimonos lined up on both sides of the stone bridge, looking at Mingfei with spring and affection on their faces. Mingfei ignored them and his eyes fell on the heavy carved copper door of the golden house. The relief on the copper door turned out to be the Hell transformation picture by Tozi, the painting saint of the Tang dynasty. The ferocious evil ghosts were lifelike, holding weapons such as iron forks or wooden hammers, and inflicted the most cruel and severe punishment on the sinners who enter hell. However, it was too ridiculous to carve such a carving that advised people to do good and not do evil in front of a casino. But Mingfei didn't mind being an angel for once and sending those heretics to hell. He stretched out his hand and pushed open the heavy carved copper door. The warm but turbid air and dazzling lights came towards him. The sound of the steel balls pouring from the pachinko machine, the sound of the dice jumping in the cup, the cheers of the girls, it was overwhelming and rushed straight into people's hearts. The beautiful female dealers who were shuffling the cards wore black suits on their waists and bunny girl outfits below their waists. Black fishnet stockings wrapped their thighs, and there was a white bunny tail on their round buttocks. The waitresses wore rose-red shiny silk swimsuits, revealing a large area of snow white in the neckline. They swung their seductive waists and walked by, giving a charming gaze to every man who looked at them. There are also pachinko girls, all of whom are as beautiful as Shitsuko, wearing cool or charming makeup, sailor school uniforms, high cut chinsams, see-through evening gowns, nurse uniforms. Their beautiful looks become more attractive under the reflection of the crimson Italian marble floor and the red crystal glass wall. The faces of the gamblers are different: ecstasy, distortion, anger, pain. This is simply a sinful pit filled with human desires. Mingfei's disgust and hatred on his face are not concealed. He remembered the history of a certain alien race in the cold universe. They were once the heyday of the ruling galaxy, but because of their long lives, they over-pursued and indulged in physical and psychological pleasure. Finally, under the strong emotional stimulation, the fourth evil and corrupted god was born in the subspace, not only almost exterminating them, but also turning the mother civilization into a connection between the real space and the subspace. In addition, their souls will forever become the prey of the new evil god. Setsuko moved closer to Mingfei nervously. Only in this way could she feel a little safe in this depraved place of desire. Those who pursue indulgence and desire will fall into the abyss forever and never recover. She suddenly heard Mingfei whispering to himself. Before she could figure out the meaning of this sentence, Mingfei tilted his head slightly and said, "You can leave now, Miss Setsuko." Okay. Setsuko was startled, but didn't dare to say much, and nodded obediently. Then she turned around and left this maze of desire as if she was running away. The fragrance of flowers and tea came into his nose, and the girl's worn body gently pressed against his side. The female manager in black half knelt on the ground and raised her body with a smile like a flower. "Can I invite you to sit in the VIP room? I'm the manager here, Sakurai Koga, you can just call me Koga." The mandala was already blooming beside him. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 78 King General. Legend has it that only when the amount accumulated on the gambling table reaches a certain limit, the mandala will quietly bloom at your feet. She is the most beautiful woman in the Paradise Hall, looking up at you with seductive eyes, as if you are the king lying on her knees. She will invite you to the deepest and most mysterious VIP room in the casino to listen to your deepest wishes. But Mingfei did not go to the gambling table, nor did he sit on any pachinko machine. Even within 10 steps, the bronze door carved with hell transformation picture was behind him. The mandala bloomed for him, as if it had been waiting for a long time. "Is it you who invited me to purify you?" Mingfei casually threw down the dark golden metal card. Foreboding did not give him any feedback, indicating that this woman had no desire to attack for the time being. "Yes, you're our most distinguished guest tonight." Sakurai Koga's chuckle was like a silver bell, and her smile was touching. Although her Chinese was not fluent, Mingfei could at least understand her. She was the most beautiful woman in this paradise, but also the most majestic owner. But the next second, her snow-white neck was ruthlessly locked by Mingfei's palm, and his cold expression did not show mercy because the other party was a top beauty. "Then who invited me? It can't be you, right?" Mingfei leaned down and stared at Sakurai Koga's slightly flushed face. "Of course, it's not me. That adult is still on the way." Although his throat was strangled, Sakurai Koga still tried to keep his sweet and elegant smile unchanged. Mingfei's amazing move scared the gamblers around. They all looked unbelievable, as if they had seen a ghost, and they crawled away from the two people who had now become the center of the maze. The men in black who were maintaining order inside the casino had already approached, holding heavy pistols and pointing them at Mingfei with stern expressions. This casino of desire became much quieter. Gamblers dared not scream wantonly anymore, and girls dared not speak softly. Even the sound of the pachinko machine pouring out steel balls stopped, leaving only the cheerful and pleasant music calling new customers to put money into the generous bonus in the full steel ball pool below. The gamblers' hot desires and heated nerves cooled down after witnessing the cold and ruthless guns, as if a basin of cold water was poured down, and a thick white mist was poured out with a sizzling sound. The fingers of the men in black rubbed and trembled on the trigger, but they did not dare to shoot and kill the murderer immediately. Sakurai Koga was the murderer's best meat shield. If Sakurai Koga died under their bullets, the one in the Paradise Hall would definitely let them be buried with the murderer and Sakurai Koga. "That, sir, very good, then I will wait a little longer," Mingfei said, loosening the palm that locked Sakurai Koga. "Thank you for your generosity. The gentleman will be here soon." She stared at Mingfei's eyes, which were covered with a faint golden mist, and smiled. Mingfei stopped talking, walked forward to a gambling table, sat down, closed his eyes and prayed softly. The gamblers avoided it as if it were the plague, leaving only the beautiful dealer, who did not dare to run away, whether out of professional ethics or the iron rule of the Paradise Hall. But the waves of seductive ripples aroused by the large area of tender and white chest betrayed her inner fear. The muzzles of the men in black did not drop their guns, still pointing at Mingfei. As long as Sakurai Koga gave a look, they would not hesitate to smash the staring murderer and the valuable sheepskin sofa chair together. "Put down the gun, and do not be rude to the distinguished guests," Sakurai Koga scolded softly. After that, she smiled gently, looked around at everyone, and said, "I'm sorry, dear guests, the paradise will close early today. We will notify you in advance when the paradise opens next time. I'm deeply sorry for the inconvenience caused to you all." Sakurai Koga's weak and boneless body leaned over the ground, raised her hands above her head and touched her fingertips, and performed a big gift in Japanese etiquette to the guests of the casino. No one could withstand the gift of the Paradise Manager, and no one needed a reminder. People who had cooled their desires realized that a bloody storm would be set off here. People swarmed towards the bronze door of the paradise. "Please go back, lovely employees, and go back to rest early." Sakurai Koga smiled at the girls who are still here. The heavily made-up dealers and waiters bowed deeply to Sakurai Koga as if they had been pardoned, and fled in a hurry on high heels. The huge paradise was completely quiet, and all the pachinko machines were turned off. Lumenfei did not pursue the departure of these people. They were just people who indulged in desires. What he wanted to purify was the real heretics who stayed here. Sakurai Koga and the cold and murderous men in black clothes with guns behind him stood quietly in place, as if waiting for the arrival of a distinguished guest. After about 5 minutes, Finkel's low voice came from the headset. "Captain, something is wrong, someone important is coming." Lumenfei opened his eyes, and his pupils covered with golden mist shone in the darkness. The lights of the Paradise Pavilion went out at some point, blending into the darkness of the deep mountains where this golden house was located. It was a cold night in the middle of winter, and there was not even the chirping of insects and birds in the deep mountains, but only the breathing of people in the Paradise Pavilion. "Welcome, Your Majesty." In the darkness, Lumenfei heard Sakurai Koga's awed whisper. Immediately afterwards, a sudden sound of claps was played. Crisp, empty, and monotonous. It seemed to resonate with the air, from the eardrum to the skull, and then to the depths of the brain, causing a trembling resonance. It was also like announcing to the world the opening of a big show. A beam of light lit up at the carved copper door at the Hell Transformation picture, and the projected light made the hideous evil ghosts more vivid, as if they were about to break free from the confinement of the door in the next second. But there was a real evil ghost standing in the door. The mask was pale and miserable, and the vermilion lips raised a strange arc, revealing iron-black fangs. This painting was of an ancient Japanese nobleman, who was violent but held high authority. Lumenfei stood up, and the golden mist in his eyes quickly condensed and turned into boiling golden lava. The big show began. The light at the carved copper door went out, and the figure of the nobleman and the evil ghost merged into the darkness. But the next second, a beam of incandescent light in the paradise hall lit up, illuminating the nobleman's figure who stood still as if he had never moved. The rustling sound of the claps had no melody. The lights came on and off when the sound started, and went off when the sound stopped. The lights from the gate to the Paradise Pavilion kept on lighting up and going out, and the devil-like nobles approached silently in the darkness. It was as if time had been shaved off for a few seconds. The scene in front of him was like a frame being pulled out. The nobles moved forward strangely, without any movement or reaction. The hem of the black feather-woven clothes they were wearing fell quietly, without shaking at all. The last sound of the claps fell, and the bright and shining lights of the Paradise Pavilion came on again. The no drama came to a temporary end. The Paradise Pavilion was dead silent, like a haunted house in the mountains. Sakurai Koga and the men in black stood solemnly with their heads bowed, as if they had stopped breathing. There were only two protagonists in this drama tonight. The noble who held power, and the angel in front of him. The noble devil was tall and looked down at Lumenfei's indifferent face. The dark shadow cast by the light enveloped him. The greedy eyes behind the God King mask seemed to want to devour Lumenfei, eat him up and swallow him cleanly without spitting out any residue. Lumenfei also looked up and glanced at the suddenly appeared evil ghost God King. This mask seemed to be born on his face. Every gap in the corners fits his skin tightly. The long black hair fell from both ends of the mask. "It's been a long time since we last met. Why don't we have some green plums and wine to celebrate this long-lost reunion together?" God King smiled and spoke. His hoarse tone was as vicissitudes as the sea. Lumenfei nodded gently, leaned close to God King and gave him a hug, as if he was an old friend who had met again after many years, accompanied by the roar of a chainsaw that broke the silence in the mountains. The furious chainsaw sword instantly tore through God King's chest, and the roaring saw blade stabbed out from God King's back, bringing blood spraying like a waterfall. Lumenfei did give the heretic in front of him an open-hearted hug, but it was in the manner of an angel of death. The chainsaw sword twisted, and the high-speed saw blade went up and tore the ugly mask of the nobleman. "I don't remember knowing you, heretic." Lumenfei glanced at the fallen body and said coldly. The premonition foreboding gave him a strong feedback that this heretic did have a strong desire to attack him. He tried to lift the mask that was broken into two halves with his toes to see what the heretic below it looked like. But just as he had seen just now, the mask really merged with the person wearing the mask and was inseparable. Lumenfei lost interest in the dead heretic and looked up at the living heretic. The armed men in black put away their guns, formed two rows in a semicircle and knelt beside the body of the nobleman soaked in blood. It seemed like they were mourning and praying. "Stupid," Lumenfei said coldly. "Your Majesty the King is immortal." Sakurai Koga spoke softly, his clear eyes staring at Lumenfei, and a gentle smile reappeared on his face. The sound of the claps sounded again, and the second act of the drama began. The strong desire to attack rose again, and Mingfei felt a gaze that seemed to be materializing and entangled with him, turning him into a puppet that the owner of the gaze could manipulate at will. He turned around and saw the figure walking out of the corridor deep in the Paradise Pavilion, with steady and powerful steps, and a snow-white noble mask that was exactly the same as before was reflected in his golden eyes. Not bad. Mingfei glanced at the corpse on the ground and walked towards the new noble. The roar of the chainsaw sword never stopped. Chapter 79 Confrontation Immortality. In Mingfei's cognition, there is no enemy in the universe that cannot be killed. Even the seemingly endless green-skinned orcs and Zek aliens are not immortal, but they just need to swing the chainsaw sword a few more times and shoot a few more explosive bombs. The so-called heretic in front of him is also the same, but it is the first time for him to cut the heretic who can resurrect. Your aggression is stronger than I thought. Wang Jing said in a deep voice. He took out a pair of ancient claps from under the black feather weaving. This is a percussion instrument, also known as a clapperboard, which consists of two solid hardwood sticks of different lengths and thicknesses. The pair of claps in Wang Jing's hand are red and black, and the surface reflects a faint glimmer. Several tiny cracks can be seen to show the traces left by the years. The development of the situation exceeded his budget, and this drama has come to an early end for him. Mingfei's expression was slightly gloomy. He didn't have a good impression of this kind of thing, as if this body was born with defects. He suddenly quickened his pace and charged, pouncing on the evil heretic like a hunting lion, with the roaring chainsaw sword in his hand as his sharp teeth. When Mingfei was about to pounce in front of General Wang grabbed the wooden clapper and knocked it gently. The crisp sound of the wooden clapper could not overwhelm the roar of the chainsaw sword, but it suddenly magnified countless times in Mingfei's ears, hitting the soul directly. Mingfei's body suddenly paused, and the whole person seemed to be frozen. Severe pain. It was the severe pain from the depths of the brain that triggered the body and soul. The sound of the clapper from the speaker of the Sacred Heart Maria Hospital last time had already brought him strong discomfort. After returning to the academy, he bought a clapper specifically for this purpose and asked Shuzaham to knock it to detect the defects of this body, but nothing happened. But in the hands of this evil ghost, the clapper seemed to be possessed by an evil magic. Every strike was like countless bells ringing in his ears at the same time. It was also like a blunt knife constantly falling down from the middle of his head, trying to split his soul in half. Broken images kept flashing before his eyes. White cavalry regiments crisscrossed the white land, pale devils were nailed to bronze pillars, he was trapped in a cocoon, and ghosts whispered around him. Mingfei could distinguish between physical pain and mental pain, the latter of which he had experienced enough in that cold universe. That woman didn't lie to me. You really are the one who escaped from there. I didn't expect that besides me, there was actually someone who could escape from there. Ha ha. Wang Jing's hoarse voice was full of excitement, and anyone could hear his excitement and joy. The sound of the bangzi never stopped, and he scratched his ears and cheeks like a clown on the stage, dancing and making sharp and weird laughter. He was like a shaman in an ancient evil tribe dancing around a weird totem, and the weird skull instrument in his hand emitted a simple and empty monotonous tone, which made people feel cold behind their backs. Just as Wang Jing was dancing to his heart's content, a palm suddenly pressed his shoulder. Wang Jing was stunned, and only saw Mingfei's angry and fierce face. He didn't know any other party recovered from the sound of the clapper. He didn't have time to think about the reason. Amid the trembling and violent roar, the world in front of Wang Jing was stained with a layer of scarlet and was divided into two halves. Don't even think about controlling my soul, heretic. After splitting the head of this evil heretic for the second time, Mingfei cursed at his corpse and gnashed his teeth. When he was still an Ostratus of the Weepers, he had experienced mental pain thousands or even tens of thousands of times more severe than the so-called withdrawal reaction when he refused to succumb to bloodthirst and black anger. Although he didn't know why he felt so uncomfortable with this damn clapper, it would be a big mistake to use it to make him surrender. Squeak! At the deepest part of the corridor, the door of the VIP room opened. The figure of the noble walked out again, with the same pale mask, the same blood-red lips, and the same disgusting. But his figure seemed to be much taller, with thick and ferocious arm muscles, and the black feather cloth could not cover his sturdy body. Who are you? He asked in a deep voice. From the hoarse and vicissitudes of voice, it can be confirmed that he is still the damned heretic, but his voice carries a hint of terrifying threat. He no longer has the attitude of winning, and the greed in his eyes that wants to control everything has disappeared. Mingfei's changes have been beyond his control in this open and above-board homeland banquet. The other party has overturned the table with one hand. The Emperor's angel of death, the judge of all enemies of mankind. Be purified by the Emperor's wrath, heretic. Mingfei clenched the chainsaw sword in his hand and charged at Wang Jing. Wang Jing lowered his body and whispered in his throat. He suddenly jumped, and the black feather cloth behind him spread out like crowings in the wind. Two shining and cold Japanese longswords slipped out of his sleeves and rushed towards Mingfei like a demon. The ground he was standing on had collapsed, cracks spreading like spider webs. The evil wind blew, and Wang Jing approached at a very fast speed, from a pretentious empty shell at the beginning, to a scratching clown, and now to an evil ghost with real power. The harsh sound of the golden swords clashing rang out, and Mingfei and Wang Jing clashed fiercely. Foreboding. Perfect timing. Wang Jing's speed climbed to an astonishing speed, including the speed of swinging his sword. In the state of Mingfei's dual foreknowledge, he was able to fight Mingfei's chainsaw sword with his vicious double swords. It seemed that because his head was split in half twice before, Wang Jing began to focus on defending his head. The blade kept blocking Mingfei's tricky and cruel fatal slashes, and the high-speed rotating chain blade chopped on the blade to spark brilliant sparks. Mingfei's eagle eyes were like swords, and he decisively gave up attacking Wang Jing's head. The chainsaw sword roared and stabbed Wang Jing's unprotected chest. The black feather webbing on the king's body were shredded into pieces the moment it touched the chain blade, and sparks flew all over his body. The armor formed by the tight blue-black scales did not allow the chainsaw sword to pierce the king's heart as it did the first time. Mingfei immediately pulled back to distance himself. Perfect timing had already foreshadowed the king's next attack. The swift and fierce double swords were cut down with a cross-force. It seems that you are now an alien. Mingfei said coldly, his golden eyes staring at the blue-black scales exposed by the broken black feather webbing. The chainsaw sword just now only left a light white scratch on it. If you're really Mingfei, no, you should be Mingfei, but something has changed in your body that I can't imagine. So there is no need to define me as inhuman. You and I are the same thing, maybe even more terrifying than me. The king grinned, and his blackened teeth were revealed behind the vermilion lips on the noble mask. He tore open the black feather webbing on his body, and the layers of tight blue-black scales covered his strong and ferocious muscles. He held the two Japanese longswords tightly in both hands, and posed the sword-pressing posture in the Natni tri-sword technique. There was even a burst of bone friction in his body. The scale armor opened and closed with the king's breathing, emitting hot white gas. It was sweat that was quickly evaporated by the high temperature. Now the king was like a burning power furnace. The metabolism in his body was going on at a high speed, accumulating terrifying power for him. A demon with real power. The blood of the alien is just my tool. It can never pollute the human heart that controls me. You are just a degenerate heretic who pursues the power of the alien. Don't compare me with you, scum. Mingfei said coldly. In the dark, it seemed that someone was laughing softly and applauded him. He took a deep breath, put the chainsaw back to his waist, and drew the Jinyu greatsword behind him. The red velvet silk fell, revealing the silver and slender blade of the Jinyu greatsword. The heretic in front of him was worthy of being killed and purified with this alchemical weapon. At this moment, a deafening gunshot sounded behind Mingfei. The black-clad men under General Wang no longer knelt down to worship the first corpse killed by Mingfei. They had blocked the entrance to the VIP passage, with heavy tactical pistols in their hands spewing bright flames and large-caliber magnum bullets flying out. This was never a one-on-one fight, and General Wang was not the kind of warrior who paid attention to the way of the warrior. For warning. The double spiritual power of warning plus perfect time in the path of each bullet was clearly reflected in Mingfei's eyes that burst into blazing golden light. The vertical pupils that belong to the top predator immediately analyzed the path of avoidance and killing. The Jinyu greatsword swung and swept, easily splitting the bullets shot at him one by one. The split bullets were intentionally guided by Mingfei, and flew towards Wang Jing with the remaining power. Mingfei's figure was like a swift arrow, and the burning dragon blood also provided him with amazing speed and explosive power. With a flash of sword light, a thin line of blood appeared on the necks of those men in black. Although their hands were still holding pistols, they had lost the strength to pull the trigger. The evil wind blew from behind, and Wang Jing cut the stray bullets with a knife, rushing to kill like a wolf hunting. Enitian 11. The double swords used in the Enitian swordsmanship are generally divided into long and short, but Wang Jing does not need these distinctions. The double swords in his hands have been fully accumulated, and his muscles are tense like golden stone. As fast as lightning, he chopped down Lumenfei with unparalleled strength. The resonance of golden stone, the knife and the sword hit each other, and the sound of the collision made people numb. Jin Yu's sword blade turned around before Lumenfei, and the wolf's teeth rested on the sword blade, failing to hurt him at all. "Come on, Lumenfei. Show your dragon side." General Wang laughed strangely. This body gave him great strength and speed. He launched the most fierce attack towards Lumenfei with his two swords. Chapter 80. Source Girl. Shut up, heretic. What responded to the king was not the burning dragon blood in Lumenfei's body, but the killing sword from the Holy Blood Angel. The descendants of the Holy Blood Angel are all first-class sword masters, and there are only a handful of war groups that can compare with them. Their swordsmanship is as perfect as the art they pursue, and it is even more bloodthirsty and deadly. And, Lumenfei did not intend to let the king be killed comfortably with one sword. Jin Yu's sword blade rubbed against the blade, and the edge was reversed. The king also revealed a flaw while attacking with all his strength. The graceful half-arc drawn by Jin Yu cut his left arm, bringing a trace of blood. The king uttered a light exclamation, and it seemed that he could not feel any pain. And just as he exclaimed, lightning flashed across his eyes, and the world in front of him was swallowed by darkness. A gap appeared between the eyebrows of the God King mask, and scarlet tears of blood stained the snow-white cheeks red. Broken arm, glaring. The second perfect half-arc was raised, and Wang Jing's right arm left his body, and the two swords reunited on the ground. The sword flashed, and a bright blood flew from Wang Jing's throat. Lumenfei put away the sword and turned around to swing the sword in a circle. The steps changed gracefully like a swift dance. Man and sword merged into one. As Wang Jing fell, his legs were cut off. Cut legs, cut throat. Pierce heart, break bones. Open chest, read belly. Lumenfei showed no mercy, and fully displayed the killing sword technique inherited from the Holy Blood Angels on Wang Jing's sinful body. Blood and scales splashed, and Wang Jing was no different from a fish being scaled alive on a chopping board. Moreover, Wang Jing should feel honored. The last time Lumenfei used such a dismembering killing sword technique was in a head-to-head fight with a Zergalian chief warrior. The hideous alien had 4 arms, each with a bone knife that could rival the Astartes power sword, a symbiotic weapon. At the time, it tried to rush in and behead Lumenfei, but was killed by Lumenfei, who borrowed the power sword of the chapter leader, with superb swordsmanship, and frightened away a large group of ordinary alien insects. With the last sword, Lumenfei pierced through the forehead of the noble mask, and then cut his head in half. Are there any more? If there are, come out together, don't waste time. Lumenfei gently shook off the blood on the blade, and his cold eyes swept towards the VIP room deep in the corridor. He didn't mind if another king ran out from there, so that he could continue to review his swordsmanship. There was silence. "If you don't come out, then I'll go in." The ancient dragon chanting came from behind Lumenfei. He turned around and glanced, only to see the black-clothed men pouring into the paradise pavilion like a tide. Their muscles tore through their suits, and their eyes lit up with dark golden light. Someone secretly cast his own word spirit. Word spirit. King's servant, rank 29th on the word spirit periodic table. This word spirit can strengthen the physical fitness of companions or specific targets for a short period of time, enhancing their offensiveness and destructiveness. These men in black are mixed blood themselves. Under the strengthening of the King's servant, their strength and reaction will far exceed the normal state. But Lumenfei didn't care about them, and continued towards the VIP room with his sword. He even killed the King General, so why would he care about the siege of these soldiers? "Captain, we're here to support." Finger's voice came from the headset. Another passionate dragon chanting sound, much louder than the dragon chanting of the King's servant. The dazzling light overwhelmed the lights in the Paradise Hall, and a dazzling sun rose outside the door. Shuzaham directly used the King's flame to clear the way, and the violent and high-temperature fireball directly blasted into the black-clothed crowd holding various guns and weapons. Boom! Junyang detonated more than a dozen pachinko machines, and the huge number of bent steel balls inside, wrapped in high temperature and powerful kinetic energy, turned into weapons no less than pistol bullets and flew everywhere. Nearly 10 men in black were blown into black charcoal by this attack. Lumenfei cut open the door of the VIP room with a sword, but there was no one inside. There was nothing else except a table and 2 chairs. If this was Mandela inviting people to come here to help them realize their wishes, it was too simple. Nothing. Mingfei frowned slightly, holding the sword in one hand and walking around the wall. The blade of the Jinyu sword cut through the four walls of the VIP room like cutting tofu. But there was no hidden secret passage or secret room in the room, and the possibility of Wang Jing escaping should not be great. So this stop is over. Mingfei still expressed doubts. With the cunningness of that heretic, there should be more than 3 bodies, and there is a high possibility that there are such replacement bodies in other places. He couldn't help but think of the information about Gloria. That heretic also reappeared the next day after being killed. This might have something in common with Wang Jing's ability. And when knocking on the 2 pieces of rotten wood, Wang Jing also said that it was that woman who told him that Mingfei escaped from there. Then, his thoughts returned to the Sacred Heart Maria Hospital more than 10 days ago, and the heretic doctor also said something about that woman. There is no doubt that that woman refers to Gloria. That damn heretic, can't you tell clearly who is who and where, always acting as a relay to keep people's appetite? Mingfei was a little annoyed. Since there is nothing here, there is no need for him to continue wasting time here. It is better to go out and help the brothers purify the remaining heretics. Since Wang Jing is not here, why don't we sit down and have a good chat for a while? Someone whispered. The blade of the Jinyu greatsword instantly swept towards the source of the sound. I don't know when, there was suddenly a boy in the VIP room, sitting on the coffee table in front of Mingfei. Hello, Angel. The handsome boy said with a smile. His tone was neither humble nor arrogant, even though that tip of the sword in the other's hand was only a few millimeters away from his throat. His clear and peaceful eyes stared at Mingfei. It's our first meeting, please take care of me. Who are you? Why are you here? Mingfei asked coldly, not letting down his guard because of the other's beautiful image. I'm Yuan Xin now, I am here to cooperate with you. The boy said with a smile. Cooperation? We don't know each other, what is there to cooperate with? Mingfei moved the sword away from the boy's throat. Bang 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 bang, deafening gunshots came from outside the door, and a fierce melee was going on in the hall of the Paradise Hall. Shuzaham and Finkel were busy dealing with the reinforced men in black. Finkel held the bursting gun with golden and red blood tear wings, spraying one deadly metal storm bomb after another. Kill the king completely. Yuan Xin said softly. Chapter 81 Bird in a Cage. When he said this, the boy's handsome face, which was as gentle as jade and could make beautiful girls pale in comparison, became as firm as a diamond. Under the eyes that seemed clear and calm as water, there was deep anger and hatred. That heretic really has other bodies. Mingfei glanced outside the door. The corridor was piled with flesh and broken limbs. The bright light fell on the fragments of the blood-stained mask of the nobles, emitting a strange luster. Then what is his ability? He asked. Mingfei was not sure whether these bodies were controlled by the power of word spirit or they were all the same person. Anyway, he felt that they were all disgusting evil heretics who had to be purified. I don't know, I killed him several times. Once I cut his throat, and after confirming that he was dead, I wanted to take off his mask, and found that the mask was actually growing on his face. I tried hard to take it off, and tore the skin, revealing the bloody subcutaneous tissue. Then the next morning, the king appeared in front of me again, wearing the same mask and asking me about my well-being, as if nothing had happened. Yuan Xin's face showed a trace of fear. Is it a transfer of consciousness? Mingfei raised his eyebrows. He remembered that in the 94th year of the Atonement Expedition, he led a company to a planet called Tomb World to support the local battle sisters of the Heart of Courage in the purification battle against the Necromancer. The metal alien called Necromancer looked like a terrifying metal skeleton, with strange green energy glowing from its eye sockets and ribs, and possessed powerful technology. After they were killed, the data would be uploaded to the new metal body again, and they would step into the battlefield again, seemingly endlessly. Fortunately, the scale of the aliens in that tomb world was not large. Mingfei led the elite decapitation team composed of his battle sisters to attack the core of the regeneration protocol. The battle was resolved with minimal casualties, and the Lamenters also obtained several powerful alien swords as trophies. If the main body of the King General is consciousness and the body is only secondary, then it is somewhat similar to the regeneration protocol of aliens such as the Necrons. However, the difference is that the other party is a cold metal alien, and the King General is just a trickster clown who has fallen into an alien body. Then Mingfei only needs to chop up all the trickster clones of the clown. Then what is your reason for wanting to kill him? Mingfei asked. He began to examine the child in front of him even though the other party's current physical age is older than him. Do you need a reason to kill such an ugly evil ghost? Yuan Xin said softly. Indeed, but you have your own reasons after all. Lu Mingfei nodded, but did not stop asking questions. I'm the corpse that Wang Jing pulled out of hell. As long as he is still alive, I will be the evil ghost under his command. I'm also that food he stored. It's just that I am still useful now, but sooner or later, I will be served on his table. So I want to kill him before he eats me. Yuan Xin said. But I don't really want to cooperate with the heretics' men. Lu Mingfei frowned and tightened his grip on the Jingyu greatsword in his hand. I'm Yuan Xin now, and the evil ghost controlled by Wang Jing is Feng Jianluli. In terms of personality, we are two minds, but we share the same body. Yuan Xin's face softened. Dual personality. Lu Mingfei frowned a little more. In the cold universe of the past, this so-called dual personality often meant the possession of a demon. But speaking of it, the little demon in his body seems to have not appeared to bother him for a while. I think, maybe it would be better to kill you here. Lu Mingfei said in a deep voice. You do have this ability, Lord Lu. The lion in your eyes is roaring, and the fierce murderous aura can scare away all the evil spirits in the world. You are the most sharp-edged person I have ever seen. But instead of letting General Wang watch us both lose, why don't we join forces to completely eliminate General Wang? You have the power, and I have the information. Yuan Xin stared at Lu Mingfei's eyes that were still shining with golden light. Her clear eyes seemed to be a nice lake with bright stars. Lu Mingfei glanced at Yuan Xin. Compared with the gentle boy in front of him, General Wang's depraved and ugly heretic appearance was indeed more disgusting. The greedy eyes that stared at him as if he wanted to eat him, and the inexplicable claps that wanted to control his soul, as well as his childhood experiences in his hometown, the alien bloodline of this body, there are still many mists waiting for him to blast through one by one with a sword and a gun. What is your information? Lu Mingfei made his decision quickly. As for whether to cooperate with this unknown source girl, let's listen to his information first. Source girl didn't say anything, but took out a black Nokia phone from her wide sleeves. He turned on the screen and put it on the table, and a piece of audio began to play. The background was the sound of whistling wind, which made people feel as if they were standing high up and wrapped in the whistling cold wind. Dear Mr. Wang Jing, hello. A soft and pleasant female voice sounded, as if greeting an old friend with a faint smile. Perhaps, I should call you Dr. Herzog. Heavy breathing sounded from the other side, like the sound of a broken bellows. Say something, Mr. Wang Jing, let me listen to the vicissitudes of the genius doctor after 16 years of wind and frost. The woman said with a smile. Although she spoke in English, Lu Mingfei immediately recognized who the other party was. Gloria, a heretic who had never appeared like her heretic master. I haven't heard this name for so long that I almost forgot that this name still belongs to me. The king's voice sounded, vicissitudes and hoarse, with naked and undisguised malice. How could it be, even if the dragon-like Soviets fell, Dr. Herzog's heart to become a dragon is still burning vigorously. The woman laughed. I knew your origins were not that simple, Miss Gloria. Those who knew the name Herzog were forever buried in the frozen soil that never rested. The king said hoarsely. I'm still here to make a deal, Doctor. Are you satisfied with the goods we provided last time? I have to say it's really perfect. My path to the throne has taken a big step forward. The malice in the king's voice disappeared, replaced by a cold laugh and a hint of expectation. But I'm afraid you'll have to catch the goods yourself this time, Doctor. Gloria said with a smile. 16 years ago, in addition to you and the embryos you brought with you, there was another child who also escaped from the burning black swan. Chapter 2 will be later. I've been scanning nucleic acid codes all day today. Chapter 82. The end of bliss. A noisy and harsh noise suddenly sounded, terminating the playback of this audio. That's it? Lu Mingfei frowned. That's it? Wang Jing is a man who is very good at hiding his secrets. I'm lucky to be able to monitor this information. Yuan Xin put away her phone. This is also my sincerity. I'm investigating Gloria and Wang Jing's identity as Dr. Herzog. I will inform you as soon as I have specific information, if we can reach a cooperation. Lu Mingfei only cares about Gloria and her heretic master. The other party always set all kinds of trips and traps for him first, which makes him quite annoyed. As for the possibility that Wang Jing knows his identity, it is not important anymore. No matter what the past of this body is, and what the future will be, Lu Mingfei will face it with his tenacious soul as the son of St. Les. Just chop up the scheming clown. I agree to cooperate with you, but only with your current personality. I only represent the Weeping Angels and have nothing to do with Castle Academy. I also promise to help you purify that heretic. Unless there are other heretics or aliens that harm humanity, I will not help you deal with your enemies. Lu Mingfei thought carefully for a while, and then made a decisive decision. Your promise is enough. Yuan Xin showed a gentle smile on her face, with crimson eyeshadow at the corners of her eyes. That smile would make even a beautiful girl look inferior and dim in front of him. Maybe you should try to be stronger. Otherwise I always feel weird. Lu Mingfei looked a little strange. Like a girl? My brother often says that it would be nice if I were a girl. And I also like to dance in women's clothes. If there is a chance, I can invite you to watch my performance. Yuan Xin laughed softly. No need. Lu Mingfei was quite uncomfortable. If this child joined his Weeping Angels, he would definitely train him hard. Train him to be a big guy with big muscles. Only in this way can he kill aliens and purify heretics. Besides, what happened to the Tokyo nightclub before I came here? That alien, and those who were killed? Lu Mingfei asked. He should have learned your information and plan from Gloria, and then played a trick on you. The murderer is most likely Dragon Horse. He likes the bloody bloodletting knife technique the most, and he also likes to experiment his knife skills on living people. As for the Deadpool, although Wang Jing also has the controllable technology to infuse humans with dragon blood and turn them into Deadpools, he has never shown it to the public, otherwise I would not be able to find his experimental site, that Dragon Horse. Where is he now? Lu Mingfei asked in a deep voice. Lu Jun wants to kill him. I can help you find his location. Yes, as soon as possible. By the way, Lu Jun, I need to remind you of something. Yuan Xin stood up, her expression became solemn again. If you see me with Wang Jing, then please be careful. That means my other personality has been awakened and controlled by Wang Jing, and it appears as his evil goes to kill people. Then can I kill you then? Lu Mingfei asked after a little thought. Of course I believe in your strength, Lu Jun, but please be careful. Kazama Lily's word spirit is called Dream Taper, which is an extremely dangerous word spirit power. It can drag you into a dream and kill you. If you die in a dream, your real body will also die. Yuan Xin warned. Captain, help us. We can't hold on any longer. Finger's voice came from the headset, and Lu Mingfei's expression tightened. He immediately stood up with his sword and rushed out of the VIP room. Only Yuan Xin was left staring at his back. Lu Mingfei felt something and glanced back at the dim room that was going away behind him. There was no one in it. The charming female manager had disappeared, leaving only the men in black who were doubly strengthened by the word spirit and special drugs. A raging fire had already ignited in the Paradise Hall, and Xu Zhang's Zhongyan was the best igniter. Facing the crazy siege of dozens of specially strengthened mixed-blood enemies, Xu Zhang and Finkel inevitably fell into a disadvantage, especially after the two mixed-bloods launched two specially modified Type 92 heavy machine guns. The fierce firepower instantly tore apart the gambling table where Xu Zhang was hiding. At the critical moment, Finkel stood up. He chanted the ancient language in a low voice, and his already strong and majestic body swelled again. His bones all over his body made a crackling sound, and the surface of his skin turned bronze. Word Spirit. Bronze Throne. The word Spirit, which is located at the 87th sequence in the word Spirit periodic table and whose bloodline originates from the lineage of the Bronze and Fire Kings of the four great monarchs, can strengthen itself in a very short time, including bones, skin and muscles. The bullets of the Type 92 heavy machine gun poured down on him, making a ding-dong sound, and white light smoke floated on his bronze skin. Fingal just stood there in a hail of bullets, grabbing the grenade launcher and shooting the two machine gunners in the head one by one. If this scene was filmed and posted on the Night Watcher forum, it would definitely be the hottest news. The famous useless student of Castle College is not only a macho man, but his word spirit is also a high-level word spirit with super protective power, such as the Bronze Throne. But only a few people in Castle College knew that Fingal had left his heart in the icy sea of Greenland, and he lost too much in that operation. That's why he always used a decadent appearance to paralyze himself. The dazzling A-level executive department combat elite disappeared, and was replaced by a useless repeater who was constantly demoted. Now, driven by the fire of revenge, he has become the elite fighter of the executive department again, but it didn't last long. Captain, help! We can't hold on any longer. When he saw a man in black carrying an Apache 122mm rocket launcher appearing undercover, he hurriedly shouted. The silver sword light began to reappear, and before the rocket launcher barrel was fired, the man in black and the rocket launcher in his hand were split in half. Mingfei joined the cleansing battlefield, like a tiger entering a wolf pack, and immediately locked onto the hybrid hiding in the corner to release the word spirit. The king's servant. An enemy stacked with a crossword spear, which was a horse-riding weapon of ancient Japanese generals, but the opponent could not find a horse and could only use his feet instead. But the tip of the spear was also sharp and frightening. Mingfei gently dodged the stab of the crossword spear, raised his foot and stepped on the spear blade, and used it as a road to turn and pounce on the man with the gun. Blood splattered everywhere. The enemy's shoulder holding the gun was completely cut off, revealing the eerie white bones. Those who remained here were all heretics. Tonight was destined to be a river of blood. Chapter 83 Reward. As the hybrid that released the word spirit and the king's servant was killed, the word spirit field that amplified the black-clad men present was silently broken. After exiting that enhanced state, they fell into a weak state of physical backlash and no longer had any ability to resist. However, compared to the king general, Mingfei gave these black-clad heretics a purification that could be called merciful. He was as swift as the wind, and the edge of the sword of Jinyu drew red lines on their necks one after another. Where is that woman? Mingfei glanced around the burning paradise. The fire was spreading, and a 1,000 yen pachinko steel ball was scattered all over the ground. Fukuzawa Yakaichi on the 10,000 yuan bill and various chips silently melted on the gambling table that seemed to have turned into an altar. This kind of decadent place of indulgence and desire should be completely burned to ashes like this. What woman? Finkel was puzzled and his body withdrew from the bronze-enhanced state. That's really fast. Mingfei whispered to himself. Sakurai Koget probably left here when he was disturbed by Wang Jing. But it doesn't matter. Since she is Wang Jing's subordinate, they will meet sooner or later. Groyd had come to Japan, and she left a lot of evil things. Rest for a while, and then continue to clean up, and try to see if you can tear open the true face of these heretics. Mingfei turned around and picked up the piece of red velvet silk, and wrapped the bright blade of the Jinyu greatsword again. Shuzahang's face was obviously tired. The consumption brought to him by releasing Junyan many times was far greater than swinging the sword and driving, while Finger still looked like a dragon and a tiger, and he was at ease. Although his words were separated from Junyan by one, it did not bring too significant burden to the body like Junyan. 5 o'clock in the morning, the 29th floor of the Genji Heavy Industries building in Cho District, Tokyo, the Executive Bureau meeting room. Many people participating in the meeting had tired faces, and it was obvious that this meeting time was a bit too dark. But they couldn't show the corresponding emotions, because in addition to the elites of the Executive Bureau, the most distinguished heads of the 8 Snapekey families also lived under the same roof with them. It was quite rare for the heads of the families to gather together. Generally, they would only gather in the Awakening Temple on the 30th floor to discuss the matter solemnly when the 8 Snapekey families made important decisions. I'm sorry to bother you heads of families to attend an emergency meeting at this time. This matter is of great importance. Standing at the end of the conference table was Yuan Zishin, the director of the Executive Bureau of the Japanese branch, who bowed to the 6 heads of families sitting on both sides. He was wearing a long black windbreaker and looked a little solemn. The gentian silver-patterned ring on his finger showed that he was also the head of the Yuan family, one of the 3 major surnames among the 8 Snapekey families. Zishin, there is no need to care about etiquette at this time. Let's get straight to the point. The silver-haired old man sitting in the chief position on the left smiled and waved his hand. Okay. Yuan Zishin nodded, the lights in the conference room dimmed, and the projector on the conference table started working. The beautiful secretary with glasses standing behind General Chishin pressed the remote control, and a photo flashed on the wide screen. It was a house burning in a raging fire. The person who took the photo was very skilled, with a perfect angle, and even the flying cherry blossoms in front of the house were dyed a layer of fiery red, looking like a flying rain of fire. Goddess of Paradise is an underground casino located in the deep suburbs of Osaka. Its information is only circulated among the rich circle in Japan. It is said that as long as you gamble a lot of money and donate it, you can realize any wish. General Chishin said. Any wish? They are really arrogant. Yuma Kotaro, the head of the Yuma family, said coldly. The old man in a black kimono had a low voice, his thin face seemed to be forged from fine iron, and his eyes were as cold as a knife. At 3:20 inches the morning, this casino was attacked. Someone set a fire afterwards, intending to burn it down. Then the Osaka Fire Brigade arrived and put out the fire in time. They searched the scene and found this thing. The photo switched, and a somewhat blackened metal card attracted the attention of everyone in the conference room. There was a flowing ghost on the card. Is this casino related to those ghosts? Nanami Sakurai, the head of the Sakurai family, spoke up. She was a stunning young woman, and her simple suit skirt could not hide her fiery body curves. This paradise is the headquarters of those ghosts. After the attack, the subsequent ghosts seemed to have only had time to transfer the funds in the casino, leaving a small number of corpses that were not destroyed in time. General Chishan said. Is it an internal fight among those ghosts? Asked the head of the Ryoma family. No, General Chishan shook his head, and the screen behind him was cut into an infrared photo. In the center of the photo, a black Maybach was pulled out of the camera because of its excessive speed. This is the special car of the head of the Inuyama family. It was disconnected from the security system and Kage 9 hours ago. Everyone looked at the old man sitting at the head of the right side of the conference table, Inuyama, the head of the Inuyama family. The audacious deeds of the exchange students from the headquarters have spread throughout the entire Japanese branch. Not only did they trample on and ignore the hospitality of the Inuyama family, they even kidnapped his goddaughter in public and drove away in his Maybach. This can even be regarded as a provocation to the Japanese branch. I'm sorry to cause such trouble to the main family. After finding these 3 naughty children, I will cut my fingers to apologize to everyone. Inuyama, he said calmly without changing his face. These are not important anymore, everyone. This was found by Kage when she checked the vehicles on the road leading to Gakurakukan. The time was 2:11 inches the morning. While Kage was searching the transportation network in Tokyo, the 3 of them rushed to the headquarters of the Yunya in Osaka. The screen photos switched, and the personal information of Finkel von Frinz, Shuzahang and Lumenfei was released one after another. The most eye-catching one was undoubtedly Lumenfei's string of shining titles. Hilbert G. Nanja's favorite student, S-Class elite of the headquarters, Natural Dragon Slayer, the Emperor's Angel of Death, and has sent an incredible talent. Tachibana Mason, the head of the Tachibana family and the current head of the Snake 8 families, said softly. The metal card just checked had S-Class fingerprints. It is very likely that the ghosts specifically invited this S-Class to go to the paradise, Yuan Zishan paused, and then he was eliminated by the other party. The following photos may cause discomfort to everyone. I hope you can be mentally prepared. Yuan Zishan reminded, and the female secretary also waited a few seconds before pressing the remote control. The conference room was suddenly covered with a layer of dark red. A bloody corpse appeared in front of everyone. It would be better to say a pile of corpses, because he was killed by dismemberment, and the remains of limbs, internal organs, bones, blood and flesh were piled together. However, apart from shock, people did not show any discomfort or fear on their faces. On the contrary, some people were very surprised. Wang Jiyang, is he dead? The stern face of Tachibana Mason, the head of the Tachibana family, showed an expression of disbelief. The mask of the nobleman who looked like an evil ghost, was now stained with blood, and was split in half along with the head, falling on top of the bloody remains. In the conference room, many people breathed a sigh of relief. The leader of the fierce ghost group, the biggest threat to the 8 families of Sheki, Wang Jing, was eliminated. There were also many people with strange expressions. While they were discussing how to capture and deal with the 3 exchange students, the other party not only went deep into the headquarters of the fierce ghost group alone, but also killed their leader Wang Jing. This is the purpose of inviting all the family heads here. Yuan Zishan sighed lightly, and seemed to have a headache. I personally also hope that the leader of the fierce ghost group will be eliminated, even if it is someone from the headquarters who eliminates him, but unfortunately, I'm afraid that everyone's expectations will be dashed. The bloody photo cut away, and the next one that appeared in front of everyone was actually a wanted order, ID. Wang Jiyang. Lumenfei's photo, information. Dead or alive. 3,500,000,000 HP. You can get a Warhammer game for free on Steam. Search for Warhammer. The mint tied to it is equivalent to the Sword and Magic version of Left 4 Dead, a very refreshing MMO game. The background of the game is the Warhammer world. 40k Warhammer is a space epic opera, and Warhammer is a medieval sword and magic fantasy. Except for some hearsay Easter eggs, the 2 worldviews are independent of each other. Chapter 84. The decision of the 8 snake families to release. 20 minutes ago, an ID called Wang Jing posted this bounty on the Hunter website. Considering the time when the Paradise Pavilion was destroyed and the huge bounty amount, Wang Jing may not have been killed. Yuan Zishan said in a deep voice. As if to increase the appeal of the bounty, the photo of Mingfei on the bounty was actually wearing a school uniform, with messy hair and a silly smile on his face. It was in sharp contrast with the astonishing amount of money with a long string of zeros below. In Japan, there must be a body. There was also a string of characters on the side of the photo. Are the fierce ghosts crazy? Using 3.5 billion yen to reward an underage child. It's better to say that Wang Jing was scared crazy. Does he think that the ghosts under his command can't do anything to this S level? Someone whispered. Yuan Zishan coughed lightly, and the conference room returned to silence again. Just now, Kaguya-sama put pressure on this hunter website in the name of the Snake 8 clan, forcing them to remove the bounty order. Yen, according to the current exchange rate, how much is 3.5 billion yen in US dollars? Reporting to the young master, it is roughly around 35 million. The female secretary replied softly. Then during this period of time, I'm afraid that all bounty hunters in the world will know that there is such an underage child in Japan whose head is worth 35 million US dollars. The king is not only causing trouble for this S level, but also for us. Yuan Zishan rubbed his temples, looked at Tachibana-san, and smiled bigly. Give me an idea, patriarch. Everyone in the conference room looked at Tachibana-san, the patriarch of the Snake 8 clan. The lines on Tachibana-san's face were as clear as if they were carved by a knife. Under the gaze of everyone, he closed his eyes and thought for a while, then slowly opened his eyes and asked, "Where are S-Class and his companions now?" They came to Japan most likely for Groya, a hybrid who deals in arms and alchemical items. It is said that he stayed in Japan for a long time 4 years ago. A new photo popped up on the screen, but the content of the photo this time made everyone in the conference room gasp. Deadpool. Even if it was cut into several pieces, everyone could still feel the horror of this creature from the huge and ferocious sharp claws. After arriving in Japan, they rushed to a nightclub in Spire District as soon as possible. After that, there was an explosion, and the Executive Bureau found the body of this Deadpool there. Is it the Groya? Yumiko Taro asked coldly. There is no conclusive evidence yet, and it is probably the same for S-Class. There is only corresponding information, and then they find the corresponding places one by one. General Chishan said. Then let them make trouble. Tachibana-san suddenly said. If there hadn't been this bounty, we could have cleaned up their messes and dealt with the follow-up matters. But this 3.5 billion bounty has already been put out, and many of those who dare to accept it are those famous killers and bounty hunters on the world rankings. I am confident in the strength of S-Class, but if they start a war on the streets of the city for the dividends, many people on our side will die. Yuan Zishan raised an objection with a serious look. We don't need to compete with those famous killers, we just need to set up another checkpoint at the customs to screen out some of the unqualified cats and dogs. Those who are capable of sneaking in will be dealt with by S-Class and his companions. Since they can destroy the headquarters of the ghosts, they can naturally deal with these troublesome characters. And the unknown hybrid Gloria you mentioned is just handed over to the S-Class to pull out one by one, which can save us a breath. Tachibana-san said. Wouldn't this be risky? After all, the other party is Hilbert Jinanja's student. If things get out of hand, it would not be a good thing to bring him to Japan. The head of the Inuyama family, who had been silent all this time, reminded him. As soon as this name was mentioned, the conference room suddenly became quiet. No one dared to whisper anymore, and everyone had an unnatural expression on their faces, as if they were extremely taboo about this name. I have reported this to the academy headquarters, but I have not received any response so far. I can only assume that they agree with my approach. Tachibana-san shook his head and said seriously. From now on, the 8 families of Snake will begin to strictly control customs and implement strict supervision measures for any other hybrids who want to enter Japan. The Executive Bureau has entered an orange alert. All members on vacation must return to work for investigation. During this period, we must strictly guard against possible attacks by the fierce ghosts on us. Kaguya-sama, track and pay attention to the whereabouts of S-level, and notify the Executive Bureau immediately if you find them. The white-haired old man issued orders in an orderly manner. The people who received the orders, including the distinguished head of the family, also stood up and saluted and left the meeting room. In the end, only Minamoto Chishan was left. Chishan, you should also learn how to be a good head of the family. I'm old and it's almost time for me to retire. I should go to the strategic department every day to drink tea with other old guys. You'll take over this position sooner or later. Tachibana-san smiled helplessly. Don't joke, old man. I think you can be the head of the family for at least another 10 years, said General Chishan. By the way, Harry, how is she doing now? Asked Masan Tachibana. Hearing this name, the faint smile on General Chishan's face disappeared. She's been in a bad state recently. Only 35 million? Mingfei curled his lips, very dissatisfied with his so-called bounty. At first, he thought 3.5 billion yen was quite a lot, but he didn't expect that it would be just that when converted into US dollars. What do you mean by only 35 million? That's US dollars. US dollars. Finger's eyes widened, staring at Mingfei as if he was staring at a big gold mine. I spent 50 million US dollars on this sword. Of course, I didn't spend my own money. Mingfei said. Damn, the principal spent 50 million US dollars to buy you a sword, and you dare to say that you are not the principal's illegitimate son. Osaka City, Chiruta District. The black luxury Maybach stopped in an alley without surveillance. Mingfei and Finkel leaned against the Maybach to discuss the bounty order for Wang Jiang. As for the fact that his net worth suddenly soared to 3.5 billion yen, Mingfei had no other thoughts except to find Wang Jiang and chop him off as soon as possible. Finkel kept staring at his own leader, as if he was thinking about whether he could get some hair on nails from Mingfei in exchange for a few luxurious midnight snacks. Shuzaham rested in the car, ready to set off for the next stop of the purification journey at any time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 85 Translation. The crisscrossing alleys were quiet and silent. The grey-black walls were sandwiched between the sky that had just brightened. The shallow water on the ground added a bit of chill to the cold wind in the early morning. The black Maybach was dozing in the alley. Mingfei and Finger, wearing thin black linings, discussed the itinerary for the next purification trip. Breakfast is here, everyone. Shijinzi trotted over, wearing Mingfei's black windbreaker. In the dim environment, her calves were as white as ivory under the thin school uniform skirt. Mingfei and Finger were not in the mood to appreciate this beauty. Their eyes fell on the two large bags of breakfast in Shijinzi's hands. The aroma of fried food was quite tempting. When the bag was opened, it was clear that the fried dough sticks, spring rolls and pancakes were full of oil. The other bag contained steaming buns and tofu pudding. Shijinzi was also very considerate to put the salty brine and syrup in different small bags. Today is Sunday, and there is a Chinese morning market nearby. I think you will like this flavor. The ballet beauty Satsuko said softly, and the gentle and considerate nature of Yamato Najika was fully reflected. I like it. Junior sister, oh no, Satsuko's sister is so considerate. Finger gave a thumbs up. He was already extremely hungry. He grabbed 2 meat pancakes and ate them, and then screamed because of the scalding gravy. He had not eaten anything since he got off the plane. For someone like him who had to order supper every night, it was a torture. He could only survive until now by relying on the orange juice and desserts on the plane. Thank you. Mingfei thanked him. His gentle and polite appearance looked like a well-educated and gentle high school boy. It was hard to associate him with the S-level elite who could chop monsters alive last night. Shuzaham was woken up, and the hood of the Maybach served as a dining table. The 4 of them gathered together to eat breakfast and enjoy this rare peaceful time. Because the journey ahead will no longer be peaceful. You can actually get asylum from the main family. The Snake 8 clan is the ruler at the dark side of Japan. I don't think you are bad people. The main family should not care about what you did before. Satsuko wet the sweet tofu pudding in small bites and suddenly made a suggestion in a low voice. Being in the same car, she naturally knew that the S-class who was chewing the fried dough sticks was now worth an astonishing 3.5 billion yen, enough to drive everyone crazy. No, our work is not done yet. Mingfei shook his head and declined Satsuko's kind suggestion. You can leave later, Miss Satsuko. Satsuko was startled, and a trace of loss flashed across her beautiful eyes, but then she returned to normal and nodded and agreed. I understand. Please be safe on the way back. I am very sorry for scaring and forcing you. Mingfei maintained his calm state of emotions and said gently. Captain, you just let this beautiful translator run away. She's pretty, gentle and considerate, a standard in Yamato Nachiko, and, Finger kept muttering as he looked at Satsuko, who was placed in the alley and silently watching them go away, in the review mirror. Stop talking nonsense, Finger. The The three of us can just share that 3.5 billion, there's no need to involve other people. Mingfei closed his eyes and began to think. Captain, don't talk as if we have to share the 3.5 billion, you're the one with the 3.5 billion bounty, and the two of us are just minions. As he spoke, Finger shrank his head and tapped the car window with his fingers. This car is the special car of the head of the Warhammer family. The car window glass should be bulletproof, right? Don't let those assassins shoot us in the head with a long shot. What website is the one where General Wang issued the bounty? Mingfei ignored Finger's chatter. A dark web forum called Hunter website. There are all kinds of people. It is said that there are many top killers and bounty hunters who take business there. Captain, your bounty order was marked in red and featured in less than 2 minutes after it was posted. The bounty of 3.5 billion yen is probably the highest bounty since the establishment of Hunter website, although I don't know whether it was the good brothers of the Japanese branch or the big brother of the academy who pressured to withdraw this bounty order, but your face must have spread all over the world. Now I'm afraid that all hunters in the world are coveting your body worth 35 million US dollars. Today, the price of air tickets from all over the world to Tokyo will definitely increase. Mingfei's expression did not change at all, and he was still as calm as water. He said, "Then they're heretics." The three people's purification journey to find Gloria is still continuing. The third stop is Koreatown in Higashinori District, Osaka. The target person Jin Yuanju is the same as Kotaro, who suddenly became rich halfway through. As for Mingfei's visit, these Korean guys showed full malice from the beginning, and after seeing Mingfei's face clearly, that malice turned into almost crazy greed. While the killer hunters abroad were taking the fastest flight to Tokyo, the local gangs had already spread the news and plundered. Now even the street thugs know that there is a child worth 3.5 billion yen in this country. Jin Yuanju, who smuggled and sold arms, immediately pulled up his fully armed thugs, clamoring that as long as Mingfei knelt down obediently, he would let him live longer. But then, Mingfei used ruthless and bloody actions to tell him that the 3.5 billion bounty was not so easy to get. The gunshots rang immediately, and the firepower was deafening. HK-45 pistols, Berer M93R submachine guns, Arkansas 47 automatic rifles, even with all kinds of brand new firearms, the thugs soon fell into self-doubt. Everyone seemed to have become masters of human body outlining, and no bullet in the violent barrage could hit Mingfei. On the contrary, Mingfei's speed was frighteningly fast. Every time the chainsaw sword swung down, someone screamed and lost his arm, thigh, or even his head. The rule of no panic if you have a gun in your hand was completely invalid at this moment. Mingfei's ghostly speed, the crazy roar of the chainsaw sword, the screams of his companions and the blood splattered everywhere, the thugs' psychological defenses quickly collapsed, and they dropped their weapons and screamed and fled in panic. In less than 5 minutes, half of the gang's thugs were disabled. The crazy roar of the chainsaw sword had become an unforgettable nightmare in their hearts for the rest of their lives. Jin Yuanju was the only one standing still in the underground warehouse. He was already scared silly, until Mingfei walked in front of him with the bloody chainsaw sword. He collapsed to the ground as if he had seen a ghost, screaming a Basi Arizala in a language he couldn't understand. Finger, translated. Mingfei frowned and turned around and called. "Okay. No problem, Captain." Finger ran up happily, stepping on the pool of blood, and released the computer that he had tightly held in his arms for fear of any damage. Then he opened Google Translate. Eva doesn't have an instant translation function. Mingfei couldn't help asking. Eva has it, but my computer doesn't. Finger snorted, and then looked at Jin Yuanju with a vicious look. "Okay, little Sheba. You. Tell me honestly how you made your fortune." Chapter 86. Alchemical products in the heart. I've been trying to make up for it. Jin Yuanju walked in front tremblingly, without any thought of resistance or escape. With the caliber of the gun against his head, one shot would definitely smash his head into pieces. Under Finger's threat, mainly under the invisible threat of Mingfei's bloody chainsaw sword, Jin Yuanju honestly confessed everything. A few years ago, when he was still a stowaway fainting on the street from hunger, he met a woman who saved him. The woman not only gave him a sum of money, but also made him the spokesperson for arms smuggling in Osaka district, and he became rich. Mingfei was sure that the woman was Gloria. That heretic gave you everything, and the price you have to pay is just to keep something for her. Mingfei was very contemptuous. How could there be such a cheap thing? But, Miss Gloria said so, and she did turn me from a stowaway into a rich man. Jin Yuanju didn't dare to say anything more, for fear of being shot in the head. They had reached the end of this secret passage. Jin Yuanju's indeed a competent servant. He secretly hid the things that Gloria asked him to keep and set up many seals. Finally, what appeared in front of Lu Mingfei was an old-fashioned blue-black small safe. This is what Miss Gloria asked me to keep. I have never touched it since it came into my hands. Jin Yuanju said timidly. Is there a bomb inside? Or is there a self-destruct device? Finger walked around the safe several times and knocked on it tentatively, full of distrust. It is possible, but we still have to open it and see. Lu Mingfei nodded. With the intelligence system and ability of Gloria and the heretics who were always one step ahead of them in everything, maybe the things in the box have been taken away long ago, and there is a bundle of C4 explosives in it waiting for him to open it and press the button to detonate it. Back off. Lu Mingfei looked alert and asked Finger to pull Jin Yuanju back, while drawing the Jinyu greatsword behind him. With a flash of cold light, the door of the safe was completely cut open, and the cut surface was as smooth as a mirror, ignoring the rotary combination lock. There was no explosives such as C4 bombs inside, there was even nothing inside. You. What kind of work? Die. Seeing this, Finger was furious. I really haven't touched this box. I haven't touched it since it came to me 4 years ago. Seeing Finger raise the explosive gun with an astonishing caliber again, Jin Yuanju was so scared that he knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. Lu Mingfei ignored Finger's screaming and picked up the safe with the tip of the sword to check carefully. There was indeed nothing. Was he a step too late again? Captain, this guy seems to be a little abnormal. Finger suddenly shouted. Lu Mingfei turned around and saw Jin Yuanju lying on the ground with his body twitching constantly, with a ferocious expression and a silent scream. I declare in advance that I only frightened him, and I definitely did not abuse him. Finger raised his hands to prove his innocence, and then when he wanted to bend over to help Jin Yuanju up, Lu Mingfei stopped him. Wait, no, he is already beyond saving. Something is reviving inside him. Foreboding's premonition of danger gave Lu Mingfei feedback. In a trance, Lu Mingfei remembered the pregnant woman in the Sacred Heart Maria Hospital before, who was abducted and then cultivated by heretics into a breeding ground for aliens. But this time he did not hesitate at all, and directly swung his sword to cut off Jin Yuanju's head, ending his pain. But his headless body was still twitching on the ground, curled up and twisted strangely, like a deformed mantis shrimp. Lu Mingfei frowned, and with the ability of premonition, he quickly locked the position of the deformation, and then stabbed out with a sword, like a swift lightning. In Jin Yuanju's heart. The sword cut open his chest, and dug out a bloody object from the swollen and beating heart. It was a metal product, in the shape of a black pyramid, the size of a baby's fist, with golden dragon characters painted on it. At this moment, the golden characters seemed to be shining. A dragon alchemy product. Damn, the thing has been kept in his body all along. Then why put a safe here? It's totally unnecessary. Fingal muttered in a low voice. The safe should contain a trigger device. It seems that Gloria has already planned that this guy will open the safe. But what is the purpose and reason for doing this? It's impossible that she stuck this thing into his heart just because she thought it was scary. Lu Mingfei possessed and picked up the small black pyramid, and thick blood flowed from his palm. He gently licked the taste of the blood and immediately guessed why Gloria stuck this thing into Jin Yuanju's heart. Jin Yuanju is also a dragon hybrid. She stuffed an unknown alchemical product into the heart of a hybrid, using his heart blood to maintain this thing. What's the point? Lu Mingfei frowned, but then relaxed. No matter what, he finally got a definite harvest at this stop. It was really unpleasant to be led by the nose twice before. Let's go. Lu Mingfei put away the small pyramid, thought for a while, and took the grenade launcher from Finger's hand. Bang bang bang. The bomb blew Jin Yuanju's body into large pieces of flesh and blood. There shouldn't be any alien contamination problem, let's go. Lu Mingfei turned around and left with peace of mind. Heavy rain visited Osaka in the morning. It was rare to have such a heavy rain in the middle of November. But for office workers, there is nothing more uncomfortable than a sudden heavy rain before work or on the way to work. The former can easily give up the idea of going to work, while the latter will still have to go home even if they arrive at the company after being soaked. If they catch a cold, the leave plus medical expenses will also be an expense. Dark clouds pressed down the sky. Through the window of the Maybach, Lu Mingfei carefully looked at the exquisite and small black pyramid-shaped alchemical product in his hand. Have you found out what the dragon text on it means? Lu Mingfei asked. Not yet, I'm afraid I have to ask the vice president to translate it personally. Finkel recorded all the Draken text messages recorded on the alchemical items and sent them to the Vice President's email. As for when the Vice President will reply, that is still unknown. Ding! A horn suddenly sounded outside the car window. A figure riding a modified motorcycle was waving at them outside the window. On the back seat of the motorcycle was a grey-black hemp sack, which looked bulging. I don't know what was in it. I'm going to make up for it. When the epidemic here is over and I can rest, I will make up for those chapters I owe. Chapter 87. Dragon Horse. Thunder and lightning flashed, and silver-white branches seemed to bloom in the gloomy sky, and the white light illuminated the gloomy eyes in the rider's helmet. The rain drew a winding stream on the windows of the Maybach. On the elevated road, the black Maybach and the black Kawasaki modified motorcycle were moving side by side. The 6 white characters with a strong Eva flavor on the other side's body were clearly visible. Mingfei had already picked up the explosive pistol, and just as he was about to fire, the rider waved to him again. But this time, he had 2 more small swords in his hands, and the vermilion tassels on the handles fluttered lonely in the world that seemed to be covered with a layer of grey. The rider held a knife in his backhand, and the scabbard fell off and was thrown behind by the wind and rain. The blade illuminated the silver snake swimming across the sky. Mingfei realized that he had made a mistake, but before he realized it, he had already dropped his explosive pistol, kicked open the car door and rushed out, his roar remaining in the whistling wind. Fingal. Got it. Fingal also noticed it. It was the small sword of the translator, Ms. Shizuko. The blade failed to pierce the grey-black sack on the back seat of the motorcycle, but pierced the leather rope that tied the sack. Mingfei's body instinct was faster than his reaction speed. He had already dodged to the motorcycle and grabbed the fallen blade with his palm. The leather rope that tied the grey-black sack loosened circle by circle, and Fingal also rushed over, holding the sack in one hand, and holding the passenger door of the Maybach with the other hand as a cushion to offset inertia, dragging it a long distance on the road. Blood dripped, but Mingfei was unaware of it. His bright golden eyes were reflected in the helmet eyepiece. In his other hand, he was holding a fierce chainsaw sword. The chain blade only then made a manic roar, trying to tear open the rider's chest. But a sharp blade blocked the chain blade's penetration, and dazzling sparks poured down like a waterfall. The rider's other hand pulled out the blade to defend. The next second, as the rider's hands were empty, the motorcycle lost balance directly, and the two fell off the motorcycle. The motorcycle, which still had residual inertia, scraped a long string of water on the road. Mingfei quickly regained his balance after a few rolls, and the other rider did the same, dragging his hands on the road with his sword to remove inertia. The heavy rain suddenly became a downpour, as if the sound of the whole world was hit by the sound of rain, flowing down the road. S-Class of the headquarters. The Fierce Ghost Group Ryoma, here, the motorcycle rider took off his helmet and saluted Mingfei loudly in the rain. But before he finished speaking, a black Maybach cut through the rain curtain like a battering ram, knocking him out fiercely. The sound of bones cracking was clearly audible in the rain. Mingfei had heard the same sound from Wang Jing before. It was not the cracking of bones, but the sound of bones rubbing against each other. It was obvious that Long Ma was not an ordinary person. He entered a state of greatly enhanced body while being knocked away. He seemed to have stepped on the brakes in midair, stopping his flying figure, and his feet landed steadily on the ground. Interrupting people's etiquette is an act that requires apology, bastard. He stared coldly at Shuzaham, who got off the Maybach with his golden eyes, and spoke in a low voice. The raindrops fell on him with a sizzling sound, and wisps of fine white smoke rose. If the people of the Japanese branch were here, they would be shocked by the appearance of the fierce ghost Long Ma, and then try their best to inform the main family of the other party's location before they died completely. If Wang Jing is an unfathomable and strange wise man, then Long Ma is a bloodthirsty executioner. Every time he appears, he is accompanied by countless blood and corpses. He is an extremely evil ghost whose threat level is second only to the king. Since the former director of the executive bureau who led the team to round him up was seriously injured 2 years ago, Long Ma seems to have disappeared and no longer appears. This also makes many elites angry but have no place to vent. They believe that as long as this evil ghost appears again, the newly appointed director Yuan Zishan will definitely kill him. However, Mingfei didn't know who Long Ma was, and he didn't understand the other party's Japanese self-introduction. Of course, who the other party is now is not important at all. When he raised the 2 small swords of Shi Jinzi, he had been labeled as a heretic by Mingfei. Since he is a heretic, he needs to be eliminated and purified. Just when Mingfei was about to pull the chainsaw and move forward, he suddenly turned his head with a feeling in his heart. The premonition gave him a strong crisis feedback from the back. Mingfei immediately turned around and rushed to the position of finger. Hey, S-level coward. Don't think about running away. Longmo was startled, and then yelled. Just as he was about to raise his sword to chase, he suddenly heard a high and fast chanting from behind. The whistling wind and rain could not cover the explosion of the syllables at all. Compared with the ancient language, all the sounds in the world were as small as mosquitoes. Following closely, a sun rose from the rain curtain. Then, this sun dragged a bright flame tail and billowing white smoke to hit Longmo, whose face showed an excited and crazy expression. Word spirit. Jungian. Boom. The fireball fell with a bang, and the entire elevated highway trembled violently. Unfortunately, many online media articles that boasted about the high quality of Japanese highways could not withstand Shuzaham's Jungian, and a gap was blown out in the middle. The visual presentation effect brought by the Jungian explosion was greater than the actual power. The heavy rain was vaporized into thick white steam by the high temperature at the moment of the Jungian explosion. The dazzling orange flames and the black smoke formed by the melting of the asphalt on the road surface rose into the sky. Shuzaham stepped forward silently and pulled out Murazim. This alchemical weapon seemed to be singing with the boiling dragon blood of its master. The hot red light appeared on the blade. The rain was evaporated by the high temperature of the blade before it fell. But Shuzaham didn't notice this. He looked up at the sky slightly. The rain kept pouring down from the sky. It seemed like he had returned to that rainy night. Awesome. I didn't expect to see such a bright sun. A wild laugh came from the black smoke. Longmo walked out of the billowing black smoke with a knife. Seeing Shuzaham's eyes burning with golden flames in the rain, his mouth curled up. Although he didn't take Junyan's blow head-on, his black rider's clothes were also burned clean, revealing the armor made up of countless scales in the shape of swords and shields. His chest and muscles rose and fell under the grey-white scales, containing explosive power. Tell me your name. In addition to wet level, you are also an interesting opponent. Longmo laughed, waved the long knife in his hand, and cut through a piece of brain. But Shuzaham did not answer. He leaned down, holding the red Murazim with both hands, and faced Ryoma with a sword-drawing posture. Forget it, it seems that swords are our common language. Ryoma's smile became more and more excited. Chapter 88 Dragon Deadpool. Finkel lay on the car door that served as a cushion, and carefully tore open a hole in the sack. Then he saw the beautiful, refreshing but bloodless face of Kendo J.K. Satsuko. He was shocked and quickly reached out to feel if Satsuko was still breathing. Fortunately, this beautiful girl is still alive. After confirming that Satsuko was just unconscious, Finkel breathed a sigh of relief and tore the sack open. There were more than a dozen cuts on her originally pure white and simple school uniform, revealing the girl's beautiful skin and the wounds that were still bleeding. Damn, this devil is really inhuman. He can do this. Finkel cursed. Fortunately, judging from the wounds, Satsuko's injuries were not serious. The physical fitness of mixed bloods is stronger than that of ordinary people, and many wounds have scabbed. As for whether there were deeper wounds, even if he thought he was as thick-skinned as a city wall, he would not do such a thing as lifting a girl's skirt while she was unconscious to check her wounds. If the news was reported back to the academy, his reputation would be over. Boom, the explosion was deafening, and the bright red flames illuminated the dim elevated road. The billowing black smoke formed a small mushroom cloud that soared into the sky. What's going on? Junior brother Shu is already making a fireball. Finger's eyelids twitched, and he could feel the heat waves sweeping in from afar. This was a bit too ostentatious. Didn't the academy professor teach you to hide your half-blood identity and abilities from ordinary people? He quickly looked around the elevated road to confirm that there were no other vehicles or pedestrians. Oh no, a large truck is coming. Finger hurriedly picked up the unconscious Shijinzi and stood up, wanting to put her on the side of the road first, and then planned to go a little further ahead to stop the traffic. Suddenly, he saw Mingfei running towards here with a sword in his hand. Finkel was immediately alert. In the past, when his leader showed this kind of expression, it meant that he was going to kill someone. If he rushed towards him, it meant that there was something in this direction for him to kill. But looking around, there was only him and the beautiful girl in his arms. It was impossible that the leader was coming to kill them both, right? No, there was also that truck. After witnessing the black smoke rising into the sky from a distance, many vehicles stopped where they were and dared not come up. Only this truck was still running rampant, and the wheels on both sides splashed violent water. Finkel ran to the side of the road holding the unconscious Shijinzi. Mingfei passed by like a gust of wind, raising a curtain of water. His target was the white truck. He had a premonition that the dangerous feedback foreboding gave him came from the things in the truck compartment. Before the truck hit him, the things in the compartment broke free first, as if they had smelled the scent of young flesh and blood. The thick, snake-like tail that supported its body on the ground suddenly rolled up the truck and threw it towards Mingfei. Bang! Mingfei had already dodged the impact, and the front of the truck hit the ground with a deafening crash. Damn alien, his expression was cold, and the Jinyu grey sword in his hand shone with a bright green light, staring at the alien that had grown wings and could fly. The prophecy spirit only brought him a strong crisis feedback, but if it was about fear, I'm sorry, the Emperor's Angel of Death is always fearless. The crying became harsh and sharp, and the tall dragon-shaped Deadpool, more than 2 meters tall, flapped its wings, rolled up a gust of wind, and swooped down to Mingfei like an angry gargoyle. Its 2 hideous claws dragged on the ground, and 12 claw marks left deep marks on the asphalt road. Mingfei held his breath and concentrated, and the green light of the Jinyu grey sword had a substantial improvement. A layer of deep blue light stained the sword edge, and began to materialize and slightly widen the blade. He was a master of killing, and the title of the chapter champion was earned by him from the sea of blood and corpses in the redemption expedition. Even though his body was not the superhuman body that had undergone 19 surgeries, the essence of the swordsmanship of the predecessors of the chapter and his own training had been integrated into his soul and became his body instinct. The dragon-shaped Deadpool pounced at an extremely fast speed. After locking his eyes on Mingfei, it took only 2 seconds to kill him in front of Mingfei. But the only response was the cold blade of the Jinyu longsword. Swoosh! A splash of water splashed on the ground where Mingfei had fought, and his whole body seemed to have turned into a residual image and melted in the rainy night. It was not a real melt, but a manifestation of speed and strength to the extreme. In Fingal's field of vision, without opening the golden pupil, he could not even see the figure clearly, but only a blue light passing by. Deadpool's claws failed to hurt Mingfei at all, but Mingfei's sword flashed continuously, and the sword shadow flashing like lightning instantly split the dragon-shaped Deadpool's scales. It seems that even the toughest and strongest alien species cannot withstand the sharpness of Jinyu. In the blink of an eye, Mingfei slashed 6 swords, and the blue-grey scales mixed with black blood splashed everywhere. Deadpool's left leg was broken in a swift and fierce attack, and blood flowed like a stream. Jinyu's sign brilliance further increased, but there was no need to use all his strength. Mingfei dodged the alien's claws and tail swings, and took a big step forward. The blade of Jinyu's grey sword drew a perfect moon shape in the rain. It was as if a bright moon rose, and the alien's thick and long tail that could roll up a truck emerged in a gorgeous arc, and was cut off by Jinyu together with the right wing behind it. The blue-grey membrane wings fell into the rain, and Mingfei had already stepped on them. Jinyu's attack continued, the sharp blue sword blade danced wildly, and Deadpool's right leg was cut off. Deadpool completely lost his balance, and his huge body fell directly to the ground. The sword blade twisted into a stabbing posture. Mingfei decisively sent Jinyu's wide sword blade along its eye socket into its skull, twisting its brain. Dealing with creatures larger than himself is undoubtedly a professional match for Mingfei. Chapter 89 Shuzaham vs. Longma, Part 1. Another one of the old pervert's experiments died. Through the gradually dissipating black smoke, Longma looked at the dismembered dragon-shaped Deadpool from a distance, with a smile of contempt and disdain on his lips. The death level is worthy of his reputation, I say. Can I go over and kill him first, and then come to play with you? He turned his head and glanced at Shuzaham, and his dark golden eyes reflected the figure of the other party leaning on the knife. Under the pouring rain, the red blood flowing from Shuzaham's body merged into the water on the road and flowed down along the gap of the viaduct. Shuzaham slowly stood up, took a deep breath, and the Murazame in his hand lit up a fiery red light again. Longma was obviously not the kind of cannon fodder soldier who ended through the motions. He was an elite evil ghost who devoured people. Shuzaham could feel the huge gap between himself and Longma. The other party did not even use the word spirit, but defeated him with his physical fitness after the mutation and the casual swing of the sword. But you were quite interesting, I've decided. Let your blood flow out before you go find that S-rank to play. Longma grinned, the Japanese longsword in his hand cut through the rain curtain, and the scale-wrapped body steamed out hot white smoke. He leaned over slightly, the blade against the left side of his waist, and the palm that had grown scales and claws grasped the handle, making a sword-drawing and slashing posture. But then he was startled again, as if he remembered something, and chuckled and changed his posture. Since it was bleeding, the sword-drawing technique of a slash, which can kill instantly with one blow, is obviously not suitable. He changed to the North Star Eatery posture of holding the sword, and his golden eyes searched Shuzaham's body up and down, like a poisonous snake looking for a position to deliver venom to the calf's entire body. Elevated road, heavy rain, Shuzaham felt like he seemed to have post-traumatic stress disorder. Every time it rained heavily, he would inevitably think of that dark rainy night, then the shadow, Odeon, and finally the scene where his father was swallowed by the huge wave that seemed to be able to drown the world. But he did not avoid it, nor did he forget it. After quietly recalling all this, he would pray to the great emperor. But as Mingfei said, they did not believe in him and swear loyalty to him for the favor and blessing of the emperor. He is the cornerstone of tenacity and the beacon of guidance in the heart, soothing the soul to calm down and guiding people not to fall into aliens and darkness. So in addition to praying, Shuzaham is also working hard to improve his own strength. Mingfei is his best melee teacher. In the sparring again and again, he was shocked to realize Mingfei's overwhelming strength, and also understood that the other party was able to face Odeon on that rainy night not only relying on the Emperor's divine blessing. And although he could try to imitate Mingfei's exquisite swordsmanship, he could not quickly learn the other party's skills that every strike was aimed at depriving life. Shuzaham could feel that it was a killing instinct that had been forged and tempered by years and blood from fighting in the sea of corpses and blood for 100 years. It was definitely not something that could be developed overnight. He needed to fight to hone himself. But Longma was obviously not an enemy he could deal with at this time. The only possibility to defeat Longma was to let him take his Junyan head on, but this was easier said than done. The other party was not a fool. The naked body with alien features contained terrifying power and speed. Should I wait for Mingfei's support? Shuzaham was a little shaken. He believed that as long as Mingfei came, no matter how powerful this heretic evil ghost was, he would be able to defeat him. Mingfei was the synonym of fearlessness. No matter who the enemy was, he would not hesitate to take his weapon and launch a fatal charge. But then, Shuzaham's belief was once again as firm as iron. If an enemy of this level had to wait for Mingfei to come to the rescue, then what qualifications did he have to go back to that rainy night with him and cut off Odeon's head? Mingfei regarded him as a fighting brother, so he must not just hold his brother back. Very good eyes, it's like hiding a lion. Then how are you going to beat me, little lion? Longma's smile turned cold, and the next second, his figure disappeared from the spot. Here it comes. Shuzaham's mind was alerted to the highest level in an instant. He immediately made the head-down knife posture of the Qi family sword technique. The whole person seemed to have turned into a taut longbow, and the blazing red aim blade was obliquely blocked in front of him. The sound of wind, rain, thunder, all the external noisy sounds were filtered out by him so that he could better capture it in an instant. Clang! Shuzaham changed his pace, splashing a string of water, and the aim in his hand drew a sharp arc and chopped to the side. Clashing with the sword in the hand of Longma who suddenly appeared. The hot gust of wind came later. Ryoma showed a look of surprise, then his smile became wider. The friction of the blades made a sharp buzzing sound. Ryoma changed his posture again, and the Wagyu heart attack sword of Okashinitri fell on his head. The opponent wanted to compete in swordsmanship this time. Shuzaham took a step back and changed to the right-handed sword-lifting posture. The fiery aim swung up from below to block the sword. Change. The leaves fall and the heart flows. Change. Push the sword and chop down. The two blades fiercely exchanged. To outsiders, Shuzaham and Ryoma seemed to be slashing at each other randomly. Only masters who understand swordsmanship know how fierce the competition between the two was. Each sword was followed by another sword. There was no opportunity to change postures and change swords. Each sword technique was performed at the same time. Both of them are ultimate sword masters. The buzzing sound of the blade even shattered the rain around the two people into mist, which was then vaporized by the high temperature rising from their bodies, and then blown away by the strong wind of the blade. From the swordsmanship competition, Shuzaham had a slight advantage. He practiced the Qi family swordsmanship, an anti-Japanese swordsmanship that replicated the Japanese pirates' swordsmanship. The shadow of the swordsmanship was the shadow of the Japanese Yejiush Thinkitrai, which could be regarded as giving someone a taste of his own medicine. When Shuzaham was in the children's palace, he had dabbled in the Qi family swordsmanship when he fought against many swordsmanship masters. In the cold weapon swordsmanship collection of the Library of Castle Academy, he actually found a complete atlas of this swordsmanship and practiced it to mastery. But in a strength competition, Shuzaham was somewhat at a disadvantage. The violent power of Longcomer's mutated body shook Shuzaham's tiger's mouth with every sword he fell, and blood had already flowed through his entire palm. You seem to be unable to hold on any longer. As the lion manifestation sword fell, Longcomer smiled and said, as if he had not yet tried his best. Shuzaham gritted his teeth and persisted, staring at Longcomer with his eyes, trying to find the opponent's flaw. Another slash. Yejich thinkich Rajajetsu slash. This slash seemed to have finally broken through Shuzaham's sword defensor. Longcomer could clearly feel that the opponent's strength was no longer enough, and his blade had already crushed the opponent's blade. It's over. Longcomer shouted excitedly, and seemed to be very dedicated to this sword competition. He took 2 steps back and changed his posture, preparing for the final slash. Your blood will bloom like cherry blossoms. Baiken one sword style, cherry blossom release god. This was Longcomer's favorite final blow. He seemed to see this slash from Shuzaham's shoulder to his heart, spurting out his blood. Longcomer was startled and saw the rough pistol with a somewhat surprising caliber that Shuzaham was holding tightly in his left hand, with the barrel of the gun facing him against his waist. The epidemic in Guangzhou was getting worse. I have been moving supplies all day and I feel a little dizzy. I owe you another chapter. I would like to recommend a book by the Battle Sisters in this book friend group. It is a relatively light-hearted article about the daily life of the 4th disaster. Chapter 90 Shuzaham vs. Longma, Part 2. Bang, bang, bang. The dazzling gun flames illuminated the bright red blood of St. Jeremiah on the gun, and the scorching temperature also burned Shuzaham's clothes and skin. But he was completely unaware, and tried his best to control the amazing recoil of the bolt pistol, and fired 4 shots in a row. The sound of the gun drowned out the sound of rain, and 4 metal storm bombs flew out of the barrel. Longcomer curled his lips in disdain, feeling quite disdainful and contemptuous of Shuzaham's behavior of taking out a gun during the swordsmanship competition. But Shuzaham is not Japanese, so he doesn't have to care about talking about Bushido with Longcomer. Moreover, his attack also belongs to the drawing gun posture of the Ki family swordsmanship. He was shocked when he first read it, but after thinking about it carefully, it is in line with General Ki's outstanding and innovative weapons and military talents. Mingfei also often taught him to use the bolt gun more in battle, so that the Emperor's wrath can purify those aliens and heretics. Longcomer changed his stance, and the target of the Sakura god release changed from Shuzaham to the 4 bombs that pierced through the rain curtain. The knife flashed, and he cut these thumb-thick black bombs in an instant with a sharp slash. It would be too wishful to try to kill the fierce ghost's Longcomer with such a trick. He wanted to grin and ridicule Shuzaham, but a black rainstorm suddenly broke out in front of him. The 4 bombs that he cut exploded and shot out hundreds of sharp metal shrapnel. Longcomer's face changed slightly, and it was too late to raise the knife to chop, let alone release the word spirit. He could only hastily turn sideways and protect his vitals with his solid back and arms covered with grey-white scales. After the incident at the Sacred Heart Maria Hospital, Mingfei asked the equipment department to find a way to increase the power of the metal storm bombs, and the gang of explosive geniuses readily agreed. As for how it was enhanced, just like a normal Astartes doesn't know how the Adeptus Mechanicus made the Terminator power armor, Mingfei doesn't know and doesn't ask. Judging from the final product, the equipment department is indeed a department that can convert flares into micro-rockets. With a muffled sound, each piece of metal shrapnel cuts the body of the dragon horse like a fierce drill, and black blood splashes with broken scales. Bang, bang, bang. Seeing that the grenade launcher attack has a significant effect, Shuzaham emptied the magazine of the explosive bullets in one breath, immediately threw away the bolt pistol, and charged with Murazim. He took a deep breath, and the golden meaning flowing in his eyes became more intense. His sight was focused on the dragon horse surrounded by black metal shrapnel, and everything in the world seemed to be clearly reflected in his eyes. From this moment on, his body has undergone a reborn transformation. Blood rushed through his veins like a river after the ice thawed. Every cell breathed as wildly and as hard as a spring bud. Endless power was transmitted silently along the muscles and meridians. He was blood boiling. The secret technology is the Lionheart Society. Angus put an ancient and dilapidated notebook on the table. The tea in the bone china cup reflected the bright sunlight outside the skylight. Do you want me to give it to Mingfei? Shuzaham glanced at it lightly. The blue-grey cover of the notebook was written with classical musical notes. Release the Lionheart. You can give it to him, but I don't think he needs it. He is a lion himself. Angus smiled and picked up the bone china cup, tasting the fragrant White Mountain Day home power in the cup. I'm going to give it to you. Release the lion heart. What does that mean? Shuzaham's eyes fell back on the cover of the notebook. If there is a lion hidden in the dragon bloodline in our bodies, Angus put down the porcelain cup and spoke slowly. Why is it a lion again? Why not change the metaphor? This is not the African savanna. It doesn't matter if we replace it with tigers, elephants, polar bears, or anything else, but no more lions. Even Shuzaham couldn't help but complain in his heart. Then as long as we are willing to untie the ropes that bind the lion, we can gain its power. And we are the ropes themselves? Shuzaham asked tentatively. Yes, this is a technique that uses spiritual means to instantly increase the purity of bloodline and gain tremendous power. We call it blood rage. This is also the meaning of the secret party group Lion Heart Society, a society that releases the heart of the lion. What is the price? Shuzaham's heart beat slightly, but he was not too excited. Months of prayer and meditation made his mind more calm and peaceful, or even more paralyzed. You should know Deadpool, right? It seems like you secretly made up for it. The price of gaining power is to become that alien? Shuzaham frowned. Blood rage is indeed a dangerous technique that surpasses the critical blood limit in order to gain power. But will it degenerate into an alien? I mean Deadpool. The power of control still lies with you. It's not because you cross the critical blood limit that you lose your mind and degenerate, but because you lose your mind that you cross the critical blood limit and degenerate. As for the specific explanation, you should slowly read this notebook yourself. And drank the maloti in the cup in one gulp. Why give it to me? After a while, Shuzaham asked softly. Because you need power, or we all need power to face those noble powers themselves. And leaned down, staring at Shuzaham with his clear eyes that had seen through 100 years of vicissitudes. I like what you said in class the day before yesterday, then why don't you give it a try? Although as a respected educator, I shouldn't encourage students to do such dangerous things, but we are all Avengers, classmate Shuzaham. He said softly, his eyes seemed to follow Shuzaham's heart back to the dark rainy night. With a thunderous explosion, Shuzaham sang the high and ancient syllables, but his speed was several times faster than before. It sounded like a sacred and solemn opera recitation fast-forwarded to a street singing and dancing rap. Unlike the visually shocking fireball bombardment, this time, the word spirit. Junyan unfolded an invisible domain. The high temperature spread out within a radius of 1.5 meters with Shuzaham as the center. The temperature in the domain suddenly soared, and the heavy rain was immediately vaporized and evaporated when it touched the high temperature domain. He approached Longma with the high temperature, and the water along the way was quickly dried up. Although Longma felt a little uncomfortable, he had already prepared to fight back. He dodged the second round of grenade shooting. He was not stupid enough to continue to take this attack with the power comparable to that of a grenade. At the same time, he also released his own word spirit. Word spirit. Moment. Serial number 72, a word spirit famous for its speed. Strength and acceleration level 3, 8 times the speed. Longmar's speed increased like a surge, and he stepped into Shuzaham's high temperature field. The high temperature bathed the wound on his back, and his powerful self-healing ability was greatly slowed down. But he only hit Shuzaham in his eyes. He swung his sword at Shuzaham, and this time he wanted to kill him with absolute strength and speed. The sword light overshadowed the rainstorm. Yay slash, falling leaves, lion show, Sakura release god. The speed of Longmar's blade has torn the air, and the sharp and piercing whistle shattered the rain outside the Junyan field. The mist was dried up at a very fast speed, and a hot land appeared between the two. Shuzaham's body was constantly bleeding, and the fine and sharp sword energy tore open wounds on his body one after another. Moment is a speed-type word spirit that is different from Junyan. If Junyan is a PvE monster clearing skill, then Moment is a top weapon for PvP. Shuzaham's heart was calm, and the physical enhancement brought to him by Bloodburst still couldn't let him keep up with Longmar's speed. It was still not enough. Then let's burst blood again! Exclamation mark. The severe pain caused Longmar to pause in his swinging of the knife, and the temperature in Shuzaham's domain increased again. Does this guy still have any strength left? Longmar could feel the opponent's strength suddenly surge again, and the iron-blue scales in the shape of a sword and shield quickly emerged from under Shuzaham's skin and grew into shape. The pair of golden pupils were like two erupting volcanoes, and golden lava surged wildly. 500 degrees, 600 degrees, 800 degrees. The temperature in the Junyan domain has soared to the normal Junyan fireball temperature. The asphalt under the feet of the two people melted rapidly, and the flesh and blood at the injured position behind Longma seemed to be burning fiercely. What kind of technology is this? Longma's eyes were fierce, and he gritted his teeth and strengthened again the fourth level of the instant, 16 times the speed. But Longma's first knife, which was increased by 16 times the speed, did not fall. He only heard Shuzaham roar, like the howling of an angry beast. No, Shuzaham has completed the release of the word spirit. Jungian. Under the enhancement brought by the second blood burst, the complicated dragon syllable chanting when releasing the word spirit was rapidly compressed by Shuzaham, so that all the combined syllables added up to be like the Chinese syllable broken. The orange-red light quickly covered the golden Longma's pupils. Boom. Longma was hit by a Jungian in the face and was blown away by the terrible explosion. Shuzaham's heart was beating violently, and a violent emotion rose from the depths of his blood, trying to occupy his mind and turn him into an unconscious killing machine. I'm a person, I'm a little weak. But I am a devout warrior, weakness is death, I will crush my weakness with incomparable pride and faith. He kept reciting the prayer of strength in his heart, firming his belief and not being affected by the murderous emotion. At the same time, he raised his sword and launched a final charge towards Longma. The blade at Mura's aim was as red as blood, and the flames were burning. Only a blurry after image was left in the air. With the power of the second blood burst, his body speed actually accelerated to nearly 4 times the speed of the instant. What kind of monster is this? No, what kind of power is that? It can actually increase his strength so fast. Longma had the idea of retreating. His white-grey dragon scales were burned black, and many parts of the scales were blown apart, revealing severely burned muscles. We have to leave here first. Chapter 91 Beheading. Clouds and smoke lingered, and a thick white mist formed by a large amount of water vapor enveloped the broken viaduct. Mingfei stood on the other side of the viaduct, staring at Shuzaham's battle on the other side with golden eyes. Captain, aren't you going to help? Finkel held the door of the Maybach as an umbrella and held the unconscious Shijinzi in his arms like a princess. He can handle it alone, but it's almost time to end it now. Mingfei said. Only then did he wrap the Jinyu greatsword with a silk red velvet and walk to the edge of the broken viaduct. Hey, Captain, what about this body? Finkel shouted hurriedly, indicating that he had to deal with the dragon-shaped dead pool that Mingfei had dismembered. Otherwise, if ordinary people saw it, the headlines of major Japanese news tomorrow would probably be "Real monster appeared in Osaka." But if you want to cover it up, it's easy. At the time, add a few news such as Kamen Rider Den-O has arrived at the scene and the Beast Fist team has defeated the monster to easily guide the topic to the special effects direction. Let's wait for someone to come and deal with it. The people from the Japanese branch should be here soon. Mingfei disagreed. Ryoma quickly climbed up from the pothole where the asphalt melted. He felt a fainting pain in his chest, back, and arms, as if Shuzaham's terrible Jungian was still burning his flesh and blood. He had lost his will to fight, and his eyes were looking for a way to escape. But Shuzaham was full of fighting spirit. He came with the scorching field, and the physical strengthening brought by the second blood burst had made his normal movements equivalent to the 4 times speed of the second level moment. In the eyes of others, Shuzaham was not in harmony with the normal world, and his entire attack movement was like a 4-time fast-forward button was pressed. The white smoke rolled like a dragon, and a bright red light tore through the dense white mist, like an unstoppable red light arrow. That was Mura's aim, who was almost turned into a red-hot iron block, burning fiercely with flames. The high temperature enveloped Longma's whole body again. After taking a direct hit from Jungian, he was already seriously injured. If he took another hit, he might die immediately. But unfortunately, Shuzaham didn't intend to let him go. Behind him, it was like dragging a long white dragon, and the Mura's aim in his hand was burning with extremely blazing flames and rushed towards Longma. Longma responded hastily, holding the sword and blocking it horizontally. Clang! The blades collided, and the sound of the blades was piercing. Although Longma was at a disadvantage, he only wanted to escape now, and had no intention of fighting in his heart. But Shuzaham's second sword had already fallen, still with the same action and the same angle. Broken sword 13 flashes. This is the most simple sword technique, using the same action and the same angle to cut continuously, forcing the enemy to fight with the sword, to see whose strength is exhausted first. Legend has it that in history, there was a kendo master who could cut 13 times in a row. 13 forces concentrated and hit the same position of the opponent's weapon in an instant, and finally cut off the opponent's sword, so it was called Broken Sword 13 Flashes. But for Shuzaham, 13 swords were by no means the limit. With his savage physical fitness and swordsmanship skills, even cutting hundreds of swords in a row was not a problem. He used this trip to suppress and force this heretic to fight him here, rather than just trying to escape. Once Longma had the opportunity, relying on the opponent's own speed-based spiritual ability to escape, he and Mingfei would probably waste a long time. So it would be best to completely purify this heretic here. The fourth sword, the fifth sword, the sixth sword, Shuzaham was like a tireless attacking machine. The speed and angle of each fall of the Mura's aim in his hand remained the same as the previous sword. The number of swings had become meaningless. He just wanted to defeat the evil ghost in front of him. On the contrary, Longma had begun to lose his hold. The dragon-like morphological characteristics had faded from him, and he seemed to be unable to maintain this form. Heretics, die. Shuzaham seized the opportunity, his blazing golden eyes seemed to lock onto Longma's lifeline, the flaming Mura's aim in his hand turned into a streak of red light and chopped off the opponent's head with one blow. Blood splattered like a fountain, Longma's head gurgled to the ground, with an expression of disbelief remaining on his face. The world seemed to be quiet all of a sudden, the sharp sound of the swords disappeared, and the sound of wind and rain filled his ears again. He stared at Longma's head for nearly 2 minutes, and after confirming that no abnormalities would occur, he exhaled a heavy breath of hot white air. Well done. Someone said behind him. Shuzaham was startled, then turned around, crossed his hands on his chest, and saluted Mingfei as a comrade in arms. It looks like he's not injured. Mingfei returned the Sky Eagle salute, his eyes swept over the iron blue scales that grew from Shuzaham's body, and frowned slightly. Is this the power brought by the bloodburst technology? Yes, it is indeed a technology that can quickly increase strength, but there are certain risks. Shuzaham left the dragon state and said softly. Mingfei frowned. He had taken a few glances at the bloodburst notebook of the Linhard Society after Shuzaham got it. He was not interested in it and even felt a little contemptuous. He disdained to use this alien power. He had the blessing of the great emperor, the prophetic psychic ability, and more than 100 years of bloody battle experience. He didn't need to stimulate the alien blood in his body to strengthen himself. But then Mingfei felt helpless again. His fighting brothers didn't have these, and could only rely on the power brought by the alien blood in their bodies. We have to find a way to find a surgical method to strengthen the body, and the manufacture of a simplified version of alchemical power armor must also be put on the agenda. Mingfei thought to himself. Then what should we do next? Shuzaham asked in a low voice with a gasp. After coming out of the blood-blasting state, his body had suffered a lot of backlash, and he was exhausted. He could only stand with the help of Murazim. Let's leave here first, and then find a place for you to recover for a while. Mingfei walked over and helped Shuzaham up, and walked towards the Maybach in the distance. What about Brother Finger? Shuzaham was stunned, and did not see Finger. I gave him a special task. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 92 Meeting. Identity confirmed, the demon Ryoma is dead. The body of the dead Pool has been transported to the Gamlia Research Institute. Kadia is monitoring all online platforms in Japan. Once any video footage of this section of road is found, it will be intercepted and forcibly deleted. Ms. Shibasaki Satsuko has been sent to the hospital. She is in good health. People from the Inoyama family are on their way. Sakura Yabuki, dressed in a black professional secretary outfit, stood behind General Chishin and reported the summary of the handling of the matter in a clear and orderly manner. Although the heavy rain has stopped, the sky is still gloomy, and the dark clouds are hovering over Osaka like a giant python. The Black Elves of the Japanese Branch Executive Bureau blocked the elevated road and cleaned up the traces left at the battle scene as quickly as possible. Ryoma actually fell into their hands. What a pity. I still want to avenge the Yuma Senior with my own hands. General Chishin stared at the head with half of his face covered in blood and flesh, and spoke softly. The Yuma Senior he was talking about was the former director of the Executive Bureau, who was seriously injured and died by Ryoma 2 years ago. But they really acted without scruples. Yuan Zishin looked back at the gap that divided the elevated road in two, and could see the twisted steel bars exposed outside the concrete, as if they had been bombed by a bomb. Less than 24 hours after the S-level trio landed in Japan, they destroyed the headquarters of the Yanya clan and killed Wang Jing and Ryoma successively. Although An Jing may not have died yet, however, before that, the 8 snakes were troubled by them for more than 10 years. If I didn't know the history and background of the Yanya clan, I'm afraid I would suspect that there was a traitor in our 8 snakes, or that we are just a bunch of trash. Yuan Zishan smiled silently. Okay, I admit that I like them a little bit. He jumped over the 7 or 8 meter wide gap that was blown open and reached the other side of the elevated road, his black windbreaker rustling. Ying also jumped over. Her graceful body curves turned into a beautiful shadow in the air, and the slender heels of her high heels made a crisp sound when they landed on the ground. The other 2 subordinates of Yuan Zishan, Crow and Yasha, were staring at Fingal to prevent him from escaping. On the surface, they put away their contempt for the exchange students of the headquarters, and no longer dared to say threatening words such as break your hands and feet and sink into Tokyo Bay as a human steak. I'm Yuan Zishan, a graduate of the 2003 advanced training class of Castle College, and currently the director of the executive bureau of the Japanese branch. It's nice to meet you, Brother Fingal. Yuan Zishan expressed his courtesy to Fingal in pure Chinese. The language used was Chinese instead of English because 20 minutes ago, when he led the team to rush from the burnt paradise hall as soon as possible, Fingal was holding the unconscious Shitsuko and shouting to them. Good brothers of the Japanese branch. Don't kill the wrong person. I'm a good citizen. Yoshi. Junior brother, your Chinese is great. Fingal gave a thumbs up and praised. The corner of Yuan Zishan's mouth twitched slightly. When he was studying at Castle College, he had heard about Fingal's legend of repeating a grade, so when he saw Fingal on the list of exchange students, Yuan Zishan knew that this so-called exchange study was a sham. Now his gentle attitude towards Fingal was entirely due to the S-level status he had never met before. The Japanese branch has always believed that the strong are respected, and in these 24 hours, the dazzling S-level exchange student has demonstrated his strength, and the entire Snake 8 families have been impressed by his record. Although it is not clear whether the E-level in front of him during this period, if Yuan Zishan remembers correctly, the other party seems to have been demoted to F-level. In short, even if Fingal did not play a big role in the S-level combination, as the saying goes, you have to look at the owner when beating the dog, Yuan Zishan still gave Fingal enough respect. Excuse me, where are Mingfei and Shuzham now? The Japanese branch sincerely invites you 3 to visit us. Although your actions are completely out of the branch's arrangement, I guarantee in my name as the director of the executive bureau that you will still be treated kindly by the branch. Yuan Zishan said as calmly as possible. Although you said so, I don't know where the leader and the deputy leader will go next. Fingal spread his hands helplessly. This is the goodwill of the Snake 8 families to you, Yuan Zishan sighed. Starting from the hour when the 3.5 billion bounty was issued, the flight from Moscow will land at Tokyo airport in about half an hour. Then Europe, America, Africa, killers and hunters from all over the world will arrive in Tokyo in the next 2 days. Their prey is classmate Mingfei, who is now worth 3.5 billion yen. Now the only one in Japan that can shout to you is the Snake 8 families. I'm not bragging. The performance of our leader, Fingal pinched his chin and smiled. I feel like they are more like the leader's prey. It is indeed a well-deserved S-level. Yuan Zishan nodded. That's why I'm in a hurry to invite you all back to our family. Your style of doing things is too ostentatious. The leader and deputy leader are indeed such people. They are only responsible for rushing forward in one breath and don't care about the Abraham Covenant at all. Fingal agreed. Yuan Zishan held his forehead helplessly. The executive bureau doesn't have much energy to deal with you now. Just like now, if we don't deal with Deadpool's body but wait for the Metropolitan Police Department to come, then the biological investigation information report of this body will be secretly passed to the US government in a few days. Although you said so, I really don't know where they will go next. I was left behind purely to protect the girl and then send her back safely. Fingal spread his hands again. Ryoma is dead. The man looked at the black sky with a face that was neither sad nor happy, and the rain slid down his cold and handsome face. He wore a loose kimono with a black background and red flowers, and a black scabbard katana was slung across his waist. The rain that slid down his face hit the handle of the katana, exploding with crystal water splashes. This is the most serious damage to the demons in the past 10 years. In the Amanaka shrine, the swaying firelight illuminated the pale mask of the nobles on the old man's face, which was chilling in the flickering light and shadow. He looked at the rainstorm outside the corridor that seemed to engulf the whole of Osaka. His eyes were as vicious and greedy as a jackal. That arrogant fool deserved to die. The man said coldly. That being said, the position of Ryoma cannot be vacant. We have been closely monitored by the family, and now is the time when we need funds. Gon King smiled and turned to look at Sakurai Koga, who was standing quietly in the corner. You can take over first. You have managed Sakurai-kun very well. He showed the row of black painted teeth behind the mask. Follow your wishes, your majesty. Sakurai Koga knelt down and bowed to the old Gon King. The reconstruction of Gakurai-kun will also be handed over to you. Now Ryoma does not need to fight, he only needs to manage Anshin in the rear. Hi. Sakurai Koga responded softly. Suddenly, the phone rang at her waist. Chapter 93 Ronald Tang. The ringing of the cell phone echoed in the quiet shrine, and a sweet and melodious female voice was singing. It was composed by Name Yamaro, which was also one of the ending songs of Inuyasha. Sakurai Koga's pretty face turned pale and panicked in an instant, like a reckless employee who forgot to mute his cell phone during an important meeting. He quickly bowed to the king and apologized. Listen. The king's tone was normal, and he was not angry or emotional. Yes. Sakurai Koga nodded in panic, quickly took out the cell phone from the pocket at the waist of her kimono, pressed the answer button and put it to her ear. After a moment, she whispered, Your Majesty, a woman who calls herself Groya wants to see you. Well, bring it here. The king nodded gently, and Sakurai Koga tried to calm down, holding the phone as steadily as possible to the old man's ear. It seems that your cargo capture plan is not so smooth, Dr. Herzog. Groya's voice came from the other end of the phone, with a smile. If you're calling here to gloat over my misfortune, then you don't have to, Miss Gloria, but the kid did escape from the Black Swan. And for some reason, my control methods no longer have much effect on him. Now I can only resort to tough measures. The king's voice became cold, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop a few degrees. Sakurai Koga beside him shuddered coldly. Doctor, are you talking about the 3.5 billion yen reward? Gloria smiled. 3.5 billion yen for the life of an angel of death, that's too cheap. What is an angel of death? It's the title that the kid gave himself. There are many similar titles, but you shouldn't be interested. Then what information did Ms. Gloria want to provide by calling this time? The strings of water under the eaves of the shrine hung like curtains, and the man walked back to the corridor in wooden clogs from the heavy rain outside. He took a deep breath, his skin turned red, and the moisture on his body and in his kimono was quickly evaporated and dried by the high temperature. During this time, he quietly listened to the conversation between Wang Jing and Gloria, and his keen hearing caught every word between them. Happy cooperation, Ms. Gloria. Of course. Unfortunately, we don't have enough manpower in Japan, and this operation still needs your help. According to the agreement, the child's blood and flesh belong to me. The sound of licking tongue came from under the mask. Wang Jing was like a hungry ghoul, eager to devour the flesh and blood on the table. Chicago Bank, how can I help you? Transfer, designated account Morningstar Home. Please tell me the transfer amount. $3,500. Account name Ronald Tang, transfer $3,500 to the account of Morningstar Home Orphanage. Transfer successful, please keep the relevant documents, wish you a happy life, goodbye. Ronald Tang walked out of the Chicago Bank, and the bright sunshine reflected from the towering glass building opposite, sprinkled on his body and made him warm. It's not easy to make money, he sighed, took out his iPhone, and opened the Hunter website's app. The times are changing rapidly. After the iPhone was launched, the Hunter website quickly set up its own customized app. In order to get better tasks in the future, Lao Tang had to buy an iPhone in full. However, the investment in a mobile phone is still worth it. The task page of the app is simple and decent, allowing Lao Tang to quickly screen out the tasks that suit him and start immediately. Lao Tang is a bounty hunter, but he does not do high-risk tasks of fighting and killing, but only accepts tasks such as tomb exploration and treasure hunting. Although this type of task is also dangerous, supernatural unknown dangers, such as mummies rising from the dead, ancient corpses awakening, etc. But Lao Tang seems to have a natural physique to exorcise evil and avoid disasters, which allows him to find various task items in many tombs and pyramids without danger, or safely take rich people who come to seek excitement to complete an adventure. Looking through the last task record, the employer not only gave a 5-star praise, but also gave an extra $1,000 reward. Lao Tang couldn't help but let out an excited yahoo cry. Since there is a tip, I won't eat hot dogs today. I have to eat a good meal anyway. The handsome young Asian man looked around and finally locked onto the Capitol Grill not far away. Good. Let's cut a steak today. Click the task to complete it with one click, and you will have a chance to win 10 times a full reward without handling fees. Invite new partners to join. After the partners pass the assessment, they will have 3 opportunities to get full rewards without handling fees. While waiting for the stake set priced at $388 to come up, Old Tang, with a look of regret on his face, was swiping the app to distract himself. $388 can let him eat so many hot dogs. Fuck, 3.5 billion yen reward, a big order. It was withdrawn. Forget it, this kind of order is exclusive to those super killers. A cannon fodder, should just rest assured, Ronald Tang licked his lips. 3.5 billion, any currency other than Zimbabwean dollars is a huge fortune. I don't know which unlucky guy has offended some big shot, so he would set such an astonishing bounty to take his life. This is almost catching up with the 4 emperors. Just as Lao Tang was thinking about it, the Hunter website showed that he had received a new message. It was a separate commission task. A few hours later, Lao Tang sat in the economy class of the Boeing 747 with his suitcase, and took the nearest flight from Chicago to Tokyo, Japan. He hung jade-juiced blue and white porcelain, yawned comfortably in the seat, and was in a good mood because the employer reimbursed any expenses for this mission. But it was a pity that he could only buy an economy class ticket, otherwise Lao Tang would go to the first class cabin to have a good time. The reward for this mission was $700,000, which was enough for him to not open a business for 2 years. And he only had to deliver something to a certain place, and the employer said that the mission was not very dangerous. Many employers said so, but you can't believe it all, and everything still depends on the current negotiation. He recalled the mission information: secretly deliver something to an office building in Tokyo. Damn, it sounds like a bomb. He didn't want to do anything that would harm the world and kill people, but then he thought, if they really wanted to deliver a bomb, why would they have to find him? They could just spend a few $1,000s to find someone on the street to deliver it. Why would they have to spend $700,000 to find him? Thinking of this, Old Tang felt much more relaxed. It should be that some evil creature was dug out, and the murderous aura is very strong. I need my physique to personally escort and suppress it, well, but the ghosts over there in Japan seem to be very fierce. People like Sadako and Kayako are not easy to mess with. Will my physique still be effective in a foreign country? In his wild thoughts, Lao Tang fell into a deep sleep. The huge Boeing 747 was bathed in the dazzling sunshine and flew towards the dark night on the other side of the Pacific Ocean. Not killing people today is to kill people better tomorrow. Thank you TNK, Yachen, and Call Me Sir for your 5,000 reward support. Thank you. Thank you for the 2,000 reward support from the online novel ranking list, up A. Hitty thanks to Bookfriend 20060316056582971 Bookfriend 200911204044449 Luolu Bookfriend 20180710232105768 Curious Bookworm Weems Bookfriend 20207232324373225 Bookfriend 20202212035046667 Fave Poisoning Hard Like Coconut Naturals Blab Changkongjin Overlord of the Little Black Room Arcane Core Zizhu in Hand Hong Hong Ha Ho the 10th Bookfriend 161222104551128 All loyal astates for your support. I also thank all the Battle Brothers who subscribed to the genuine version for their support. You are my motivation to keep writing. It seems that I owe 20 more chapters at the moment. I will make up for it. But the epidemic in Guangzhou is really bad. Fighting brothers, wear masks and protect your body. The Emperor protects us. Chapter 94 First Meeting SHHH Shuzaham swung his knife, and the hot blade cut open the snake like Deadpool's chest skin covered with grey-white scales inch by inch. The tight muscle tissue and the deformed ribs that changed into a hole brought him a lot of trouble in this operation. Shuzaham also changed from being a meticulous doctor who performed an operation at the beginning to a butcher who chopped ribs in the vegetable market, holding your aim and breaking the hard bone plate of Deadpool one by one. The cold air of the cold storage has spread to the warehouse, and the temperature has dropped a few degrees. A fat, bald middle-aged man huddled in the corner, and his originally ferocious expression became terrified at this time. He looked at the boy who was fiddling with the dishes on the table, and he didn't dare to breathe. 13 minutes ago, Yoshikawa Taketo set up the stove here, humming a song and preparing to eat a hot sukiyaki. Suddenly, a subordinate ran in a panic and shouted, "Brother, it's not good." 2 arrogant high school students broke in, which made him unhappy. Yoshikawa Taketo wondered if those high school students were so excited after watching Hot Blood High School that they dared to cause trouble for their Fire Ghost group. So he picked up his special MP5K and rushed out, just in time to see the bloody scene of his number 1 thug's arm being chopped off by the indifferent boy with a chainsaw. He wanted to fire back, but he only saw a flash of cold light, and the MP5K in his hand was completely split in half. Another boy who looked a little older was looking at him indifferently, and the blade of the samurai sword in his hand was close to his neck. "I surrender." Yoshikawa Taketo decisively raised his hands and shouted to surrender. "Found it, the 4th one." Shuzaham used tongs to pick up a black 4-sided pyramid object from Deadpool's bloody chest, and washed off the highly corrosive black blood on the surface with water. Unlike the first 3 small pyramids stored in the hybrid body, this small pyramid was stored in Deadpool's body. "Throw it in the bag, let's eat first." Mingfei arranged the dishes and chopsticks, and called his brothers to come and eat first. It is now 10:30 p.m. Tokyo time, and more than 10 hours have passed since the battle on the elevated road. During this time, the 2 of them followed Eva's guidance with the highest efficiency and speed, violently clearing out gang forces along the way, and unknowingly returned to Tokyo from Osaka. Using Deadpool to make medicine, smuggling arms, freezing Deadpool, in addition to the gangs related to Gloria, there were 2 underground casinos of the Ghost Clan on the way, along with the rebellious Ghost Clan hybrids, which were also swept away by Mingfei and Shuzahan. Now this is their last stop, smuggling arms while preserving 4 dormant snake-shaped Deadpools. Before they could wake up, they were beheaded by Mingfei with his sword. "Thank you for the hot pot. It just so happens that we haven't eaten anything today." Mingfei used Google Translate to translate this sentence into Japanese and gave it to Yoshikawa Taketo, who was huddled in the corner. Hearing this, the other party put on a smile that was uglier than crying and nodded repeatedly. Even those terrifying monsters were killed, how could he dare to say anything? It's good enough to be able to save his life now. Beef, tofu, abalone, luncheon meat, fish cake, the sukiyaki that the gang leader eats is indeed much more luxurious. Various ingredients are bubbling in the pot, and the bloody smell in the warehouse is filled with this fragrance. Even Shuzahan, who is still under the influence of the 2nd degree of bloodburst, has a pale face that is ruddy in front of the steam rising from the hot pot. The 2 began to enjoy the hot pot next to Deadpool's body. The hot and delicious food immediately dissipated the coldness of Tokyo late at night, and also replenished their bodies that had been fighting for a long day. "Where are we going next? Are we going back to the academy?" Shuzahan asked. "No hurry, there's plenty of time. The real heretic hasn't shown up yet." Mingfei put down his chopsticks and shook the small cloth bag beside him. The metal collided and made a crisp sound. "Although we don't know what the heretic wants to do with these things are in our hands. If they want them, they will definitely come to us. And General Wang, this disgusting and sinful heretic seems to be interested in me too. In that case, I'll wait for them here." Shuzahan immediately understood what this battle brother meant. He wanted to stay in Japan as bait to fish like the mission of the Sacred Heart Maria Hospital. "Oh no, it's fried fish. I've sent a message to Finkel. He should be here with his men now." Mingfei picked up the chopsticks again, picked up 2 slices of tender beef from the pot and put them into his mouth with the seasoning made of raw egg, soy sauce and sugar. The hot and delicious taste slid into his stomach along with his mouth and then spread to his whole body. The sense of happiness and satisfaction made him feel a little dizzy. But then Mingfei became alert again. The delicious food was the reward for their loyal fighting, and they should not indulge in their appetites. Otherwise, they might end up like the Emperor's children, the 3rd Legion of the Astates, who were once loyal to the Emperor, and finally degenerate into hopeless traitors who indulged in pleasure and desire. "The Japanese branch?" Shuzahan asked softly. "Well, go there to rest, organize information, and discuss the next plan." Mingfei said, "By the way, let them help me share that 3.5 billion bounty." "Wow, Captain, you guys are too mean. You didn't even wait for me when eating hot pot." Before entering the house, Fingal was wearing a black windbreaker and sunglasses on his face. He followed Yuan Zishan with a cold look, just like a gangster. The next second he returned to his original state, took off his sunglasses and stuffed them into his pocket, and skillfully found the bowls and chopsticks and sat at the table, searching for the prawns and a bologna in the pot. He seemed not to see the body of Deadpool lying on the ground. "Didn't they give you enough food?" Lu Mingfei glanced at Fingal, who was eating voraciously, and turned back to look at the handsome man who looked like a Greek statue. The other party was also looking at him. When their eyes met, there was a faint spark. "A very good warrior. Why does he look a bit like the Yuan Xin? But this one is not so effeminate, and his body is much stronger." Lu Mingfei nodded slightly and made an evaluation in his heart. Yuan Zishan also made his first impression of Lu Mingfei in his heart. Unlike the image of youthful vigor and sharpness he imagined, Lu Mingfei gave him the feeling of hidden strength under a gentle face, and an inexplicable sense of security. It was as if it was natural for evil things like Wang Jing and Deadpool to be eliminated by righteous partners. Yuan Zishan's expression eased a lot, and he bowed slightly to show courtesy. "Nice to meet you. I'm Yuan Zishan, graduated from the 2003 advanced training class of Castle College, and currently the director of the executive bureau of the Japanese branch. I have heard of you for a long time, S-level." Chapter 95. The Devil Crawling Out of Hell. Yuan Zishan? Is Yuan Xin your brother? Lu Mingfei raised his eyebrows. As soon as he heard the name, he knew that the girlish Yuan Xin had something to do with the Yuan Zishan in front of him. Yuan Zishan's originally gentle face suddenly tightened and became gloomy. Shuzaham could obviously sense the change in Yuan Zishan's momentum. He put down his bowl and chopsticks and placed his palm on the handle of Murazame's knife. Finger still looked unaware and was still keen on using chopsticks to scoop meat from the pot. After a long while, Yuan Zishan's expression eased again and he said in a deep voice, "Do you know Xin, Lu Jun? I met her today at the Paradise Pavilion. It seems that your brothers are not on good terms." Lu Mingfei said. Although Yuan Zishan's momentum was scary, he was not hostile. "I have seen him." Yuan Zishan took a breath. "It seems that he has climbed out of hell. Thank you very much for the information you told me, Lu Jun." Then he adjusted his mood and said to the 3 exchange students at the sukiyaki table, "The family has arranged a safe and comfortable room for you 3. You can leave after you have your meal. Although the killers and hunters from the dark side of the world are now attracted by the high bounty, please rest assured that the Snapekiate clan will protect your safety until the matter is over. This is also the Snapekiate clan's thank you for destroying the headquarters of the fierce ghosts, killing Ryoma and eliminating potential hidden dangers, Lu Jun." Yuan Zishan seemed reluctant to reveal the information about him and Yuan Xin, and Lu Mingfei did not ask any more questions. He turned back to deal with the remaining food in the pot. Yoshikawa Taketo had been dragged out, and what awaited him would be severe torture by the Execution Bureau. It was rare that one of them survived, so the Execution Bureau would naturally try every means to pry some information out of him. "What do you think of that S-class? What else can it be? He's awesome. His actual record is there. I really want to see him fight the young master. Indeed, the strongest of the headquarters versus the strongest of the branch, it must be quite exciting." Outside the warehouse, Crow and Yaksha smoked, secretly glanced at the situation in the warehouse, and talked in a low voice. Although they were very much looking forward to it, neither of them seemed to have much in mind. A black Lexus sedan passed by the streets of Tokyo. A rare winter cloud made Tokyo and Osaka rain for a day. The streets after the rain were extremely wet and cold, and the chill seemed to penetrate deep into the bone marrow, and even the thickest down jackets could not resist it. However, this did not affect the colorful Tokyo at night. Even at nearly midnight, there were still many pedestrians on the streets, and the small carts of the street room and snack stalls were still emitting white steam. Assistant Yabuki Sakura was driving, and Yuan Zishan was sitting in the co-pilot seat, his face tense and he didn't know what he was thinking. He looked up at the review mirror. Lu Mingfei and Shuzaham were both in a state of closed-eye contemplation, with calm expressions. Fingal was sleeping soundly in a comfortable soft chair. What a mess he made as soon as he arrived. Yuan Zishan thought to himself, and reached to his waist to take out his wallet. In the innermost layer of the wallet was a somewhat old photo. In the photo, 2 boys were leaning side by side on a light helicopter, wearing white hunting clothes made of linen. "Little girl, have you crawled out of hell to find me?" he whispered to himself, as if talking in a dream. Sakura looked forward with her eyes, driving the car attentively. The Lexus stopped in front of a building wrapped in iron black glass curtain walls. Except for some areas where the lights were still on, its edges had merged into the night. Welcome to Genji Heavy Industries, gentlemen. This is the headquarters of the Snake 8 families and the Academy's office center in Tokyo. Ying will take you to the 38th floor, where the family has arranged a VIP suite for the three of you. I still have things to deal with, so I'll take my leave first. After getting off the car, Yuan Zixing simply introduced the huge glass building in front of Lumenfei and Shu Zihan, and then hurried away. Captain, I have to remind you first, it's still time to run now, otherwise we will most likely be put under house arrest if we go up. Finger yawned and whispered in Lumenfei's ear. No one can trap us, even the most strict prison in the world. Lumenfei didn't care about these. Go up and have a good rest, and prepare for the next mission. I want to see the head of the family, his location. Identity confirmed, Yuan Zixing, sufficient authority. The head of the family's last elevator entry and exit record is on the floor. Kagia replied. Harry, is she in trouble? General Chishing's expression suddenly became nervous, and he immediately took the elevator that Kagia prepared for him. Is a Greek number, pronounced Keji, and in mathematics it often represents a random number, that is, unknown. Even among the 8 families of Snake, very few people know the existence of this floor. It is located on the 45th floor of Genji Heavy Industries, almost close to the top of the building. Passing through a black iron corridor, at the end of the corridor is a room, and on the innermost wall of the room is a white metal rounded corner airtight door. Generally only bank vaults use this level of door. The room is filled with various emergency equipment, from the simplest oxygen tank to the heart resuscitation machine, angiography X-ray machine and many other large medical equipment worth millions of dollars that ordinary people would never think of. The heavy door is now open, and doctors and nurses in white coats stand quietly on both sides. Seeing General Chishing come in, they bowed and saluted. General Chishing ignored them and walked straight into the room behind that door. The grey-haired old man knelt beside the bed. Although his back was strong, his face was full of worry. A girl was lying on the bed on the ground. Her pretty face was pale, her eyes were closed and trembling slightly, and her breathing was rapid, as if she was having a nightmare. Several thick needles pierced the girl's arm, connecting to a blood filter that was working quietly not far away. Harry, after seeing the girl for the first time, General Chishing was stunned. In his impression, the girl's dark red hair that fluttered like seaweed was now stained with a strange silver white. Only at the end of the hair could a little red be vaguely seen. Now she is washing her blood. I don't know why, her bloodline activity has suddenly become so high during this period. Tachibana-san frowned. I can see. General Chishing looked at the girl's wrist, which was already covered with tiny pale scales. He looked a little dazed. Many things happened suddenly, and he was not even mentally prepared. What's wrong, Kisei? You don't look well. Don't worry about her for now. With my old bones here, she will be fine. Tachibana-san said. Dad, the S-rank told me that he saw Kisei today. Chapter 96 Attack. The VIP reception suite on the 38th floor of the Genji Heavy Industries building in downtown Tokyo. Lumenfei and his 2 companions were warmly received by the Japanese branch. The room was decorated in a unique style, and the service was on call. If they wanted to eat something, they only needed to write it on the menu, and hot meals would be delivered in less than half an hour. The only thing that was a bit of a hindrance was the branch executive bureau commissioner who was guarding the door of the suite. They stood guard for 24 hours, and when they saw Lumenfei open the door, they looked as if they were facing a great enemy, and nervously said that if he wanted to go out to relax, he would need to wait for the approval of the director Yuan Zixing. However, they also knew that if the other party really wanted to leave, they would not be able to stop him with just a few of them. The so-called house arrest was just a formality, and the claws of the beast inside had not been removed. The main family had not disarmed the 3 exchange students, and those fierce weapons were still in their hands. And they were the waiters guarding the door, responsible for providing the best possible service to the beast living in the room. If the beast wanted to get out of the cage, they could only run away. Of course, compared to a beast, Fingal is more like a domestic pet, and he enjoys it quite a lot. This is more comfortable than when he was in the academy. In the academy, he had to rush to the cafeteria, where free food was delivered to his door all day long. The only thing missing was a cat he'd made to feed him. Okay, we have confirmed that there is no monitoring frequency band in the room, so we can discuss it with confidence. After a day of rest, the Weeping Angel trio began the second task discussion. The 4 pieces, let's call it the Black Pyramid for now. Yesterday I sent their images to the Vice President. Just now, the old drunkard sent back a message, saying that the dragon characters written on them are related to Nibelungen. Nibelungen, Lumenfei and Shuzaham looked at each other, and their thoughts returned to the Night of the Rain. That section of the Nord elevated highway that does not exist in the real world, where Lumenfei severely injured Odion and killed his 8-legged horse Slibnir. Ahem, please don't look at each other affectionately while I'm speaking, just a joke, don't be impulsive. In Norse mythology, Nibelungen is also known as the land of the dead. Everything in it is dead, including the 4 elements that construct the world. Water, fire, wind and earth, but the 5th element, spirit, is enriched in it. Countless alchemists have spent their entire lives chasing this legend, but only those chosen by the Dragon King can enter Nibelungen alive. Lumenfei raised his hand to interrupt the long speech of his brother who was scouting information. Let's get straight to the point. What is the relationship between these alien creations and Nibelungen? The Vice President didn't drink for a whole day yesterday. He was concentrating on studying the dragon characters and alchemical ray patterns on their surface. What he means is that these 4 black pyramids may be alchemical items used to construct the gate of the Nibelungen. Finkel said. If we assemble or arrange these 4 items into an alchemical matrix, we can open a door to the Nibelungen. Shuzaham asked in a low voice. He stared at the 4 exquisite pyramids placed on the cashmere carpet. The metal surface reflected the bright sunlight outside the French window. His hand was already on the handle of Murazam's knife, ready to return to the elevated road for a fight. This is only the Vice President's theoretical conjecture at present. The specific situation still needs to be verified. After all, alchemy is a very wonderful thing. And even if these things can open a door to the Nibelungen, it can't be opened just like that. It is a special space created by dragons, just like a secret house. The entrance will only appear when the owner and the people he agrees to come in. Even if these alchemical products can open a door to the Nibelungen, we have to find where the house is first. Finkel explained. His apparent mentor is Professor Gurin, but his real mentor is actually the Vice President, the alchemist master of the Academy, so he also has a deep understanding of alchemy. This kind of thing can be put directly into the safe. What's the point of Gloria stuffing them into the bodies of the hybrids and Deadpool? Shuzaham raised his own question again. Indeed, it seems that these 4 alien creations have not changed much after being exposed to the air. Lumenfei nodded. This involves my knowledge blind spot. How about we do an experiment? Let's get some blood and see what effect these 4 pyramids will have. Finkel scratched his head. Let's save the alchemy research for later. Now I just want to know the intentions and locations of these heretics. Lumenfei said. Could it be that Gloria collected and stored these pyramids to open the Nibelungen somewhere in Tokyo? But she came to Japan 4 years ago, the time span is a bit long. There is no need to prepare for several years in advance, right? Finkel speculated. Since these creations are useful to her and are now in our hands, how about I use them to lure out these evil heretics? Lumenfei picked up a black pyramid creation and played with it in his hand, his expression calm. Without intelligence and unable to launch an orbital strike on his hometown, this was the only way. The good news was that he had taken control of the initiative. Now it was Gloria and the heretic behind her who used the name of Empire to come to them. You are still carrying the 3.5 billion bounty from General Wang. Why not get rid of these assassins first, and then take the things to lure Gloria, so that the 2 gangs can be distinguished? Shuzaham made his own suggestion. Okay. Lumenfei nodded in agreement. Then do you want to go out for a walk? It's a good opportunity to warm up. As soon as he finished speaking, the 3 heard a sudden loud noise coming from far away. Boom. Immediately followed by an obvious tremor, the half-drunk bottle of Coke on the table by Finkel shook and rippled. What's going on? Mount Fuji is erupting. Finkel panicked and was about to shrink under the table with his head in his hands, but Lumenfei, who looked calm, reached out and grabbed his collar. Shuzaham walked to the French window and opened it. Suddenly, the sirens of countless cars outside the window filled their ears. A large amount of black smoke poured out from the street on the ground floor. Something must have exploded below. Even Shuzaham's extraordinary vision could not see clearly what was happening below through the thick black smoke. But then, from his bird's-eye view, Shuzaham saw vehicles as big as beetles appearing from the streets and rushing towards the Genji Heavy Industries building. The black smoke was quickly surrounded by the newly rising white smoke. The black-clothed people who rushed down from the car threw out small iron cylinders, and the thick white smoke that gushed out blocked the entire street in just a few tenths of seconds. It seems that this is not a common gas pipeline explosion accident in Japan. PS1. The main perspective is Mingfei, not God's perspective. PS2. Except for the evil aliens and heretics who endanger humanity, everyone else will be used as currency. PS3. The corruption of Quan is too high, calling the Grey Knights. Chapter 97 Hunted Team. If the group of people down there aren't here to cause trouble for the Japanese branch, then they're here to cause trouble for us. Shusaham withdrew his gaze from the ground floor and turned back to the suite. Mingfei stood up and took out the brand new chainsaw sword from the cabinet beside him. At the same time, he took out the Jinyu greatsword wrapped in red velvet silk and put it on his back. Do you want to go down and help? Shusaham also quickly took out the grenade launcher from the cabinet, and the magazine was already filled with metal storm bombs. It's not really help, just protect the ordinary people. I don't think these heretics will miss innocent people. Mingfei said lightly. I don't know if they're heretics blinded by money or glorious heretics. Is it possible that they are both groups together? Shusaham said softly, hanging two magazines on his belt at the back of his waist. You stay here, Finkel and I will go down. Mingfei grabbed two black pyramids and stuffed one of them into Finkel's hand. It is possible that Gloria will sneak in and take back these alien creations. With your strength, it should not be a problem to hold on here. Shusaham was slightly startled, then nodded and said, okay. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. He still understands this simple truth. Finkel, don't stand there like an idiot. You still have 1 minute to prepare. Mingfei patted Finkel on the shoulder, and the latter hurried back to the room to carry his bursting gun. A moment later, Finkel walked out carrying the bursting gun, wearing a green vest and bare strong arms, with two crossbow chains hanging on his body, and a red cloth tied on his head, making him look like a not-so-strong German version of Rambo. How about it, isn't it very manly? He chuckled. Actually, I personally like the feeling of being covered in heavy armor, but it doesn't matter, anyway, your power of words can be bulletproof. Mingfei raised his eyebrows and walked towards the door of the suite. As expected, when Mingfei opened the door, the three commissioners of the execution bureau stared at him nervously, and one of them even pulled out a pistol from his waist. Something happened down there. Are you still going to stay here to guard us? Mingfei glanced at the few people, and his seemingly calm gaze was as sharp as a knife, making them look away involuntarily. It's just a little accident. Please trust that our family can handle it. The three distinguished guests just need to wait in the room for the matter to be over. A commissioner said nervously. They'll most likely come in for me, so get out of the way. Mingfei shook his head and ignored them. He walked towards the elevator with Finkel. When he left, Mingfei also took away the cold python pistols of the two commissioners of the execution bureau. Explosive bombs are used to shoot aliens. Ordinary pistols are enough for ordinary heretics, and metal storm explosive bombs still need to be used sparingly. After the three commissioners of the execution bureau watched the two people take the elevator down, they woke up from their dreams and hurried to report to the upper-level leaders. And 10 minutes before the attack, a van with the logo of Genji Heavy Industries parked outside the building. After the engine was turned off, it never moved again. The security guards stationed at the door of the building held riot shields and electric batons. Although they noticed the car, they saw that it was their company's car after all, so they didn't pay too much attention. 1 minute before the attack, there was still no movement in the van. The dark glass of the driver's seat blocked the view, and it was unclear whether there was a driver sitting on it. A security guard finally realized that something was wrong. When he put up his riot shield and stepped forward to ask, the situation suddenly changed. The car body shook violently. Just as the security guard wanted to get close to the dark window with the van to check, the driver's window rolled down silently, and a hand holding a gun stretched out from inside. The sound of the pistol equipped with a silencer was suppressed to the lowest level when it was fired, and the transparent riot shield was splashed with blood. Another shot, this time aimed at the security guard at the door of the building, and with a pop sound, blood bloomed a scarlet flower on the bulletproof glass door. The van started up again, turned a corner, and rushed towards the gate of Genji Heavy Industries with full power. During the sprint, the driver's door suddenly opened, and the man jumped down leisurely, humming the tune of Kill Bill. After a roll, he regained his original elegance. Boom! The shockwave and the flames instantly shattered all the glass curtain walls on the first floor of the Genji Heavy Industries building. Driven by the kinetic energy, the glass fragments became a deadly blade for the second time, and unfortunately cut the throats or eyes of those who were lucky enough to survive the explosion. It was as if it had been swept by a heavy hammer. The hall was devastated and everything was shattered, so were humans. Limbs were everywhere, and blood flowed on the grey and dirty ground, turning into a pool of black blood. The piercing car alarms blared, and the choking black smoke swept through. People in the high-rise buildings near Genji Heavy Industries were also attracted by the explosion. Some watched the show, some hid, and some called the police, but a moment later, thick white smoke joined the battlefield and blocked their sight. Smoke bombs mixed with smoke and tear gas completely blocked the street where Genji Heavy Industries was located. Okay, everyone, assemble. For our $35 million, we must cooperate sincerely. The man humming the tune of Kill Bill wore a headgear made of linen on his head, and the linen was decorated with mahjong patterns. Jisoo clapped his hands. One after another, figures emerged from the smoke and gathered in the hall. They were different in shape and clothing, and the only thing in common was that they all wore a mahjong headgear on their faces. By the way, aren't you two terrorists? You can use a slightly less terrorist breakthrough method. I almost thought that one of you was following Layden. Two Barrels said. Okay, I'll consider your suggestion next time I have a chance. Jisoo just nodded perfunctorily, then looked at the others. They all carried various weapons, from the tang swords that reflected cold light, to MP5 submachine guns, M4 automatic rifles, and even some people carried 4-barreled portable Gatling machine guns and an RPG-7PM rocket launcher. It was simply extremely brutal. Everyone, stop talking nonsense. No one is a good person. It's just a short-term cooperation and taking the money and leaving. It's that simple. Farkai said, her voice was cold, and she was actually a woman. The thick anti-theft combat uniform concealed her feminine features, and the RPG of unknown model hanging on her back with a red rocket warhead made people ignore the difference between men and women. I'm a good person, I don't fight and kill. Etten raised his hand to show that he was a good person. He was carrying a small pistol all over his body. Act according to the plan. Farkai, Si Tong, Holmes Thong, Da Bin, the four of you go to the 45th floor and capture target number 2. Dong Feng the 11th Fen, the two of you go to the 38th floor. The bounty target is on that floor. Find him and kill him. The personnel began to disperse, and in the end only Jiu Tong, Tong and San Tong were left. What's going on? Why don't you assign me a task? Don't tell me you want to use me as a human bomb. Tong's scalp tingled, thinking that these crazy killer hunters had gone to do their job, and now there was obviously not much work for him, a harmless little white rabbit, to do. How could I not assign you a task? You are the core of this mission, Tong. Jioshu said softly. Chapter 98. The Attack of the Bandits, 2-in-1. The four mahjong bandits, led by Farkai, or bandits for short, interrupted the progress of the two employee elevators in the hall in the fastest and most violent way. The two mahjong bandits, Dongfeng and Shifeng, found the spare permission card at the front desk, and the 6 of them squeezed into the remaining VIP elevator, going directly to the upper floors to track their respective mission targets. You and Santon can take the stairs. Jisoo said. Ah? Why? I want to take the elevator, too. I don't mind waiting for the next one. Etten raised his hand and said weakly. There is no next one. By the time they get out of the elevator, this company will be able to take back control of the elevator. If you want to be shot to death halfway through the ride and stop at a certain floor as soon as the door opens, you can wait. Jisoo said meaningfully, his eyes seemed to penetrate the mahjong mask on his face, staring straight at Etten. Etten felt a little hairy on his back, and quickly said that it was safe to climb the stairs, so he ran quickly to the safe passage not far away. Santon, holding a Japanese longsword, followed silently. Jisoo withdrew his gaze from Etten and walked towards the only intact VIP elevator hall door. The other doors were directly blown up by the bandits with a rocket launcher, and the elevator cable was blown off. The ancient and melodious testimony sounded, drowning out the shrill car alarms outside the building. He stretched out his palm, and the air showed distorted ripples, and the invisible extreme high temperature was immediately revealed. The shape of the solid titanium alloy elevator hall door also twisted, like melting ice cream. The red liquid metal hissed and flowed down. Jungian. Static heating. Although I really want to let their own things deal with me, but now we are cooperating, so let's release them later. Jisoo hummed the tune of Kill Bill again, and 2 tall white freezer trucks emerged from the thick smoke and slowly backed into a messy hall. These brainless mercenaries, do they really think Genji Heavy Industries is an ordinary office building? The head of the Miyamoto family scolded. The head of the family guarding Genji Heavy Industries today is Miyamoto Shio of the Miyamoto family of the Snape 8 families. He is a handsome and upright middle-aged man who looks less than 30 years old. He wears old-fashioned tortoise-shell framed glasses and has neatly combed hair. He is more like a young teacher in a college than the head of a mafia family. But he is a bit busy at this time. 1 minute after receiving the attack, the Kagia system that the Snape 8 families rely on was attacked by a large number of hackers such as SYN Flood, Worm Virus, and Information Bomb at the same time, and greatly slowed down Kagia's processing speed in a short period of time. In Japan, where fax machines are still widely used, there are almost no forces that can threaten Kagia's supercomputer, including the Japanese nationalist government. Even those vicious ghosts dared to stare at them covetously, but they were always helpless. We have lost control of the elevator. The maintenance team is repairing it. The situation on the first floor is still unclear. The VIP elevator is running. The destination is the 38th and 45th floors. The monitoring center of Genji Heavy Industries was already busy. Could the attack come from abroad? Miyamoto Shio frowned. He was not good at fighting. He and his family were more responsible for scientific research projects in the Snape 8 families. And today, Tachibana Mei-san and Minamoto Kisei were not at Genji Heavy Industries. It was as if they had chosen this point to launch the attack. Report the situation to the head of the family and Director Minamoto Kisei immediately. But he took a deep breath and quickly adjusted his mentality. In addition to the elite members of the Executive Bureau who stayed in the top floor computer room and the document storage vault, the other armed personnel who could move were divided into two groups and rushed to the 45th and 38th floors at the fastest speed. Although it was unlikely that the S-level exchange student would be threatened by these miscellaneous mercenaries who came out of nowhere, he still had to show some respect for the distinguished guest. Now let you know what kind of place the Snape 8 clan is. Miyamoto Shio said coldly. Because of the decision of the head of the family to let everyone go, the Japanese customs did not have too strict screening of people entering the country, allowing some mercenaries with more sophisticated means to sneak in. However, these mercenary killers are at best just dirty rats who make a living on a bounty website on the dark web. The only ones who can be called advantageous on the Hunter website are some wild hybrids suspected of having bloodliness. And the Snape 8 clan is the largest hybrid organization in Japan. With the intervention of the Gamlia Research Institute, the virus that invaded Kagia is being gradually eliminated, and the control is back in the hands of the Snape 8 clan. The surveillance screen is restored. No, head of the family. New enemies found. Someone shouted, and quickly enlarged the surveillance screen that had just been restored on the computer. Something is killing wantonly on the lower floors. Miyamoto Shio's pupils shrank slightly, and he recognized his black long-tailed monster that was tearing apart the family members, Ghost. Ah, Deadpool. Two teams of fully armed and well-trained elite members of the Executive Bureau are fighting the Deadpools on the lower floors, but they were no match for those monsters. Their bodies were tough, and ordinary bullets could only produce a few sparks when hitting them. But their speed was extremely fast. From the surveillance footage, the elite members of the Executive Bureau didn't even have a chance to dodge before being killed by the claws of those snake-bodied Deadpools. Damn, why are they here? Miyamoto Shio was sweating profusely. Apart from the few Deadpool corpses that were sent to the Research Institute yesterday and were chopped into 7 or 8 pieces and chopped smaller so that they could probably be used to stew soup, this was the first time he had seen a living species, and it was more than 10 times more dangerous than he had imagined. That S-Class could actually kill this creature so easily. He had the idea of asking Mingfei for support. Now was not a matter of considering the face of the Snape 8 clan. The 5th and 6th floors of Genji Heavy Industries are elevated highways, and the communication between the upper and lower parts depends entirely on 3 elevators and a safety passage. If one of the Deadpools runs onto the elevated road, that would be a serious problem. But before he could make a decision, a new report came in. Master. An unknown helicopter has approached the top floor. The top floor has been breached. Miyamoto Shio's expression changed in shock. Where are the defensive forces? Kagia's computer room is located on the 54th floor. The Snape 8 clan had not imagined that the enemy might launch an attack from the top floor by means of transportation, so they also set up a strict defense on the roof of Genji Heavy Industries, and even equipped it with a number of Stinger individual air defensive missiles. All have been resolved, and there is only one enemy. The person reporting was pale. Only one, Miyamoto Shio, has realized the seriousness of the situation. The armed forces on the roof can resist an armed helicopter squadron in a short period of time. Being solved by one person, he gritted his teeth. Brothers on the 54th floor, defend the Kage room to the death, and allow die with honor when necessary. Cancel the support for the 38th floor, all personnel go to support the 45th floor and the Kage room. Bring heavy weapons. Except for the security forces of the Gamli Research Institute and Maruyama Construction, request other family heads to come to support immediately. Immediately notify the head of the Ryoma family and let him prepare for the armed intervention of the self-defense forces. His orders were passed down one by one. Now Miyamoto Shio must hold on until Director General Kisei and other family heads support him. But before that, he took a deep breath and said, "Please help me get through to the number of the member guarding the S-level exchange students. It seems we have to take the stairs." The building trembled several times again. Mingfei glanced at the extinguished elevator display and walked straight to the entrance of the safety passage not far away. "Maddie Glasses, please wait." The female executive bureau commissioner who was guarding the door earlier ran forward anxiously and switched to Chinese to communicate with Mingfei. "Please wait, Mr. Lu. The head of the Miyamoto family wants to ask for your assistance." She handed over a mobile phone respectfully, and turned on the speaker. "Hello, S-level, I am Shio Miyamoto, the head of the Miyamoto family of the Snake 8 families. Now that Genji Heavy Industries has been attacked, I sincerely ask you to help us solve some difficulties." Shio Miyamoto spoke Chinese with a strong Japanese accent and asked Mingfei, "We are not responsible for helping you solve your difficulties. My brothers and I only protect humans." Mingfei corrected. "I know, so I want to ask you to protect the innocent people here. Now the unknown enemy is invading the Shekiate clan from the roof and the elevator. There are many ordinary people on the ground floor who have not yet been evacuated. What's more serious is that the Deadpool creatures you killed before have appeared on the ground floor and slaughtered the ordinary employees of the Shekiate clan. So I hope you can help us protect the people on the ground floor from harm." Miyamoto Shio's tone was humble. "Then don't talk nonsense next time you encounter this kind of thing, just talk to me directly. Arrange the fastest route for me." Mingfei frowned. "Walking down the stairs from the 38th floor to the ground floor, I don't know how many people will die at the hands of the aliens if this time is wasted." "Yes. There is a private elevator for customers on the 38th floor, which can go directly to the 4th floor." The head of the Miyamoto family was excited and immediately asked the female specialist to take Mingfei and Finkel to the so-called private elevator. After the elevator's permissions were unlocked remotely, Mingfei and the others immediately stepped into the elevator. The elevator only had two Arabic numeral buttons, one was 38 and the other was 04. He pressed the latter without hesitation. The elevator shook and slid down rapidly. Miyamoto Shio's voice sounded in the elevator. "It will reach the 4th floor in about 30 seconds. The Deadpool team has reached the target floor. Good luck to everyone." Mingfei closed his eyes and began to pray in a low voice. Finkel was checking whether his bolt gun was normal. He liked this rough-and manny gun very much. 17, 16, 15, 8, 7, 6, the numbers on the elevator display were changing rapidly, and in a blink of an eye, it slid down from the 13th floor to the 4th floor and stopped. Ding! The elevator door slowly opened, and the first thing that came into view was the Executive Bureau commissioners wearing black windbreakers. They were holding various firearms and fighting with those dangerous snake-like Deadpools. But in front of the terrible speed of the Deadpools, they retreated step by step, leaving only the bodies of their companions who were killed tragically. Swoosh! A snake-like Deadpool was as agile and swift as a venomous snake, and it quickly approached a commissioner of the Executive Bureau, like a flash of lightning, and the ferocious bone-sharp claws in its hand were about to chop down on the commissioner's head. Bang! Finkel fired, and the metal storm bombs hit the Deadpool with 2 consecutive shots. The sharp and deadly metal storm bombs exploded on its body, black blood and scales splashed, knocking it to the ground. The commissioner reacted, and the obviously modified large-caliber Colt in his hand emptied all the bullets in the magazine at the wound that Finkel had just made. Hold on. Support is coming. The commissioners were obviously startled when they saw Finkel's Jungle Rambo outfit, but now was not the time to worry about the costume. It was a good thing that someone came to support them. These monsters were too difficult to deal with. They used 3 RPGs to forcefully blow one to death, and people were dying every moment on their side. Fortunately, from this moment on, the situation changed. The specialists of the original family were surprised to find that the Deadpools no longer attacked them, but instead attacked Lumenfei, who rushed into the group of Deadpools. Lumenfei was as fast as a shadow, holding the Jinyu greatsword and harvesting the lives of the Deadpools one by one, and the necks and heads of the aliens flew across. It was like an elegant and deadly sword dance. After the sword dance, the ferocious Deadpools fell to the ground one by one, and blood flowed. Solved. Are there any more? In less than 2 minutes, Lumenfei had solved all the aliens on the scene. Only the executive department specialists were left stunned. He gently shook the blood on the blade and calmly informed Miyamoto Shikshin, asking if there were any other aliens. It seemed that he was still a little unsatisfied. At this time, the bandits were also taking action. On the 38th floor, Dongfeng and Shivan rolled out of the elevator to avoid being shot into sieves by the enemies who might appear. Report, the 38th floor is safe. Dongfeng whispered to Jiesia, the boss of this character. Most of their manpower is now concentrated on the lower floor. Start to complete your mission. Understood. The remaining bandits continued to take the VIP elevator to the 45th floor. Only Ayrton was still climbing the stairs of the safety passage. His physical fitness was obviously not up to standard. When he climbed to the 10th floor, he had already taken out a wet tissue from his pocket and put it into his hood to wipe the sweat. He wanted to take off Ayrton's hood, but there was an unidentified Santon standing next to him. Hunters cannot easily reveal their true identities in front of other hunters. This is common sense on the Hunter website. But looking at Santon, who climbed 10 floors without bending his waist or breathing heavily, with a burly figure like an iron tower, I think he is also a hero who takes on the blood-licking business on the Hunter website. But with such a tough guy following him, Ayrton still felt a lot of security in his heart. I'm so sleepy. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 99. Night Food. No other Deadpools were found on the ground floor. You've worked hard, Mr. Lumenfei. The last trace of contempt in the heart of the head of the Miyamoto family has disappeared, replaced by respect from the heart. The surviving Executive Bureau commissioners have recovered from the shock and went downstairs to search for survivors. Not all people in the Snapekiate families are mixed bloods. Ordinary employees and gangsters also occupy a considerable number. Report the overall situation to me, Lumenfei said. He tied the red velvet silk wrapped around the blade around his waist and prepared to fight with the Jinyu greatsword. Yes, at present, the incident has been identified as a joint attack by the fierce ghosts and mercenaries. They took advantage of the absence of the head of the family and directed Yuan to suddenly launch an attack. At present, the roof has been breached. 2 people from the mercenary team arrived at the 38th floor 20 seconds ago. They should be heading straight for you. The rest of the people have now reached the 45th floor. Miyamoto Shikshin did not hide anything and decisively reported the situation to Lumenfei. He was not a fool. Even the camera footage of the battle that lasted less than 2 minutes made him shudder. There was no doubt that Lumenfei was now the sharpest weapon in the building. As long as he could get his help, he might be able to survive this crisis. Speaking of weapons, Miyamoto Shikshin thought of the head of the Uzechi family on the floor with some uneasiness. This time was too coincidental. Not only were the head of the family and the director not there, even the head of the Uzechi family was probably still in a weak period after the blood transfusion. What if the mercenaries or evil spirits who ran to the 45th floor kidnapped the head of the Uzechi family? It was not impossible. Since they dared to attack Genchi Heavy Industries so openly, who knew what means they'd prepared for this? Miyamoto Shikshin's forehead was already sweating coldly. If this really happened, he would not be able to apologize even if he committed seppuku 1,000 times. He immediately picked up his sword with Yasha's claws and teeth on the scabbard. Every head of the family had his own sword, even if he was a scientific researcher and was not very proficient in swordsmanship. Master, you are needed here to command. Someone shouted hurriedly. From now on, you will be in charge. Miyamoto Shio didn't even look back, and directly pushed open the door of the supervision center and rushed out. The deputy leader is still on the 38th floor. Finkel whispered. He is fine, I believe in his fighting ability, otherwise I wouldn't let him stay alone. Lumenfei was not worried that Shuzaham would get into trouble. So you don't believe in my fighting ability, right, Captain? Finkel looked like he had suffered a great blow. If your fighting attitude can be more serious, I can still rest assured, Brother Finkel. Mingfei said truthfully. I'm already very serious. There is no more serious macho man in the world than John Rambo and First Blood ! Finkel said loudly. Yes, and there are many, but Mingfei didn't say it. After all, now is not the time for chatting. He glanced at the alien corpses here. Let's go up and meet those heretics. On the top floor of Genji Heavy Industries, a man with plain makeup strolled among the corpses, his face cold and seductive. Although it is not appropriate to use such words to describe a man, the impression he gave was indeed very appropriate, just like the fox spirit who practiced under the moon in Yamatsu area. He held a long sword that was still dripping with blood, and his indifferent and clear eyes were painted with crimson eyeshadow. The armed forces arranged on the top floor of the Snake 8 families that could resist a squadron of armed helicopters in a short time were destroyed by him alone. Is this thing really useful? Feng Jianluli said softly, and his other hand was playing with a black metal pyramid with gold and mysterious patterns and words painted on it. Forget it, since those people said so, I'll do it. He carefully looked at this alchemical creation for a long time, and finally tilted his head slightly, and placed it on the ground on the roof. Is this okay? Genji Heavy Industries Safety Passage C, 30th floor. 3:30. Finally here. Etten was exhausted, lying on the stairs like a puddle of mud. His hood was soaked, but he still didn't dare to take it off. Hey, buddy, which gym do you train in? How many hours a day do you train? I didn't hear you breathe until the 30th floor, you're fucking awesome. Etten was panting. Santon still didn't answer him, just as silent as he had been all the way. He turned his head and looked around. Etten, who was resting on the stairs, was very lucky not to see Santon's real 360-degree turn of the head, otherwise he would have been scared to death. Then, Santon drew out his long knife. The blade was sharp and crisp, and the sudden action almost scared Etten. Masaka, this big dumb guy is not going to kill me and eat my money. Etten hurriedly climbed up a long flight of stairs, fearing that Santon would do something to him, and was ready to run away at any time. But what Etten didn't expect happened. Santon suddenly pointed the blade at himself and cut it fiercely. Fuck. Brother, why are you so upset that you want to commit seppuku to apologize? Etten was shocked again. He stared with wide eyes, looking at the blood gushing out of Santon's abdomen like a fountain, with a horrified expression. But Santon ignored him. He just stayed there, ignoring the blood flowing out of his abdomen, and continued to tear his body with the handle of the knife. At the same time, he also put his palm into the wound cut by the blade in his abdomen, which made Etten tremble with fear. After a bloody groping, Santon finally grabbed a bloody thing from his stomach. Etten took off his hood, revealing his handsome Asian face. He stared with wide eyes, trying to see clearly what Santon was holding in his hand. It didn't look like an organ like the liver or small intestine. Who in a normal person would have an organ that grows into a triangular pyramid shape? Ronald Tang rubbed his eyes to make sure he was not dazzled. What Santon was holding in his hand was a small pyramid whose blood color gradually faded, revealing its original dark and shiny color. Damn, is this a bloody version of the Millennium Lego? Will we play cards and have a dark duel next? I don't know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Old Tang was thinking wildly, and quietly climbed up a few steps, and continued to watch this bloody and weird scene from the junction of the 30th floor to the 31st floor. Santon trembled and respectfully placed the black pyramid gently on the scarlet ground. The sound of metal and stone touching was very clear. As soon as it came into contact with the ground, the dragon characters and patterns on the surface of the pyramid suddenly lit up, as if something unknown was activated. Could this be the gift? Old Tang suddenly realized that he had been wondering whether the gift would be on Santon's body just now, but he didn't expect that it was really on Santon's body. Hurry up and start running. It seems that we have stepped into a trap this time. Seeing Santon's body fall down with a thump, Lao Tang rushed down the stairs decisively to escape from here. He no longer cared about the $700,000. He swept away his previous diffidence and became vigorous. He rushed down the 29th floor in one breath. But suddenly he stopped and did not dare to move forward. The air seemed to become turbid, and everything in front of him became dark yellow and rotten, as if it was stained with a layer of dark yellow curtain. The world became quiet and silent. The horn sound that was mechanically repeating in Japanese on each floor also stopped. Lao Tang grabbed the rusty door handle and gently pushed open the safety passage door on the 29th floor. The creaky sound made people's teeth ache. Lao Tang stretched out half of his head and saw that the corridor was dark like an abyss. Is it haunted? He gritted his teeth and quickly went down to the 28th floor. The unsettling smell became stronger and stronger. It seemed that the lower he went, the closer he was to the underworld. His head suddenly started to hurt, as if a sharp knife had been stabbed into his brain, stirring it up, and unknown fragments of memory surged into his mind. Fuck. What the hell is going on? Old Tang covered his head in pain, gave up the idea of continuing to go down, and began to turn around and walk back. It was not until he returned to the place where the 3 tubes were placed on the 30th floor of the pyramid that the pain that invaded his head was relieved a lot. Although there was a lingering smell of blood in the air, at least the smell of decay disappeared. Below the 30th floor, it seemed to have become another world. Night food field, is there any place more suitable for tasting power than this? On the 33rd floor of Genji Heavy Industries, Jisoo chuckled as he walked, leaving behind dozens of corpses in black clothes. I wish His Majesty the Emperor can successfully obtain the power he wants. A woman's phantom emerged from his side and spoke softly. Smoothly. No, how could it be smooth? Rice hormone was supposed to be used 4 years later, but now we have to activate it in advance and cooperate with dirty and ugly villains. Jisoo, or the Emperor, suddenly spoke coldly. It's all because of him, Mingfei. A chess piece that is completely out of the control of others is destroying my small chessboard like crazy. His behavior is unforgivable. After a long silence, Jisoo spoke again. In this case, let the night food source come back to life. Mingfei chopped down with a sword, trying to split the pyramid that seemed to be nailed to the ground in half. But it only sparked a burst of sparks, and the pyramid was intact. A few minutes ago, when Mingfei and Finkel went up to the 42nd floor, the black pyramid in his pocket suddenly tore through his clothes and fell to the ground. Mingfei realized that something was wrong and hurried to pick it up, but found that the bottom of the triangular pyramid seemed to be stuck to the ground and could not be moved at all. So hard. Even the Jinyu can't be split open. Mingfei frowned, and when he wanted to use all his strength to activate the Jinyu greatsword, showing the moonlight form to chop the pyramid into pieces, Shuzahang's voice came from the headset. Captain, where are you now? Currently on the 42nd floor with Finkel. Are you in trouble, brother? Mingfei put down his sword-wielding hand and replied. No, if you can, you'd better look out the window now. Shuzahang said, throwing the charred corpse in his hand into the corner of the room, and looking out the French window. He fought with the 2 bandits who suddenly broke in with East and West masks on their faces. Although the 2 opponents were both mixed bloods, they were quickly defeated by Shuzahang's irritable Junyan. Shuzahang ignored the pleadings of these heretics who wanted to take his brother's bodies in exchange for money, and completely purified them with Junyan. Then, he looked out the French window, a completely different Tokyo. On the distant horizon, a huge and spectacular blood-red sunset occupied half of the sky above the horizon, giving the entire city a dark golden veil. It also illuminated the heavy rain that enveloped the entire city. It was clearly just after 10 o'clock in the morning, and it was a rare sunny day with warm and bright sunshine. How could it suddenly become dusk? In addition, Shuzahang also saw the Rainbow Bridge, which is a bridge across Tokyo Bay to the port area. It is more than 700 meters long and is named Rainbow only because of the colorful spotlights set up onto the bridge. But here, it really became a rainbow, extending dozens or hundreds of times, spanning the entire Tokyo, bending like a rainbow. The bridge body glowed with an ancient copper color, and the surface was mottled with rust, as if it had experienced endless years. I see it. Mingfei kicked open the door of an office room and saw the Tokyo outside the window, just like Finkel, which seemed to have experienced the end of the world. There was no life at all, and only some sesame-sized, swift black shadows could be seen on the streets. These alchemical creations have been activated. In a way we don't know. Finkel screamed, kicking the black pyramid on the ground, but it didn't move at all. They put this thing into people or Deadpool's body not to hide it secretly. I'm afraid it's to cut off the connection between them. We have been brought into Nibelungen by them now. This is the first time I have seen a Nibelungen as big as our city. Finkel looked at the dark yellow buildings outside the window and exclaimed sincerely. How to cancel it? Mingfei asked. I don't know yet. I'm just a half-baked water, and I almost forgot all the alchemical techniques I learned to the teacher. And even if I didn't forget it, this level of Nibelungen is not something I can solve. I still have to ask the vice president to come in person. Finkel scratched his head. Mingfei frowned. The city didn't look so silent. In the dark corners of the floor, countless black shadows were ready to move, and pairs of dark golden eyes were looking up at where he was. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes and began to pray in a low voice. Hearing Lumenfei's low prayer, Finkel closed his mouth to avoid making any noise that would affect his own leader. He was not the kind of person who had faith. After he joined the Weeping Angels, Lumenfei did not force him to believe in the Emperor, but only asked him to learn the etiquette of the regiment. Finkel took out his mobile phone from his pocket, intending to record this shocking scene in Niblung, but was surprised to see a layer of faint golden light appearing on Lumenfei's body. Chapter 100 Breaking in. Finkel rubbed his eyes to make sure he was not dazzled. There really was a layer of golden light emerging from Lumenfei's body. And as his prayer became more and more passionate, the golden light with human warmth gradually condensed and shone, and turned into a pair of hazy wings of light behind Lumenfei. Finkel finally understood at this moment why Lumenfei liked the word angel so much, calling himself the Angel of Death. The name of the regiment was Angel of Weeping, the angel leading the army in the Black Moon Pavilion. It turned out that the leader himself was really an angel who came down to earth. But the feeling he gave people was different from those immortal spokespersons in theological religions. Although Finkel did not feel any impulse to convert to his faith from Lumenfei, but at least the light on him could really make people feel at ease. Lumenfei finished praying, and when he opened his eyes, a striking golden light bloomed in his pupils. "I'm inspired. The aliens in this filthy land will be completely purified under the wrath of the Emperor," he said, and the light wings behind him fluttered gently. Finkel didn't know what to say. He was very self-aware and worried that the dirty words he blurted out would affect this sacred atmosphere. The silver-white sword body ignited golden flames, and Lumenfei felt the fearful emotional fluctuations of the Jinyu living spirit. "Accept it, it is a blessing from the great Emperor," Lumenfei said softly. The living spirit obediently accepted the unknown power injection, and the mood became cheerful again. Lumenfei pressed the headset and said to Shuzaham on the 38th floor, "Pray to the Emperor, brother, show your loyalty. He is watching us." While he was speaking, the gunshots from upstairs were as continuous as firecrackers. 4 minutes ago. After a brief pause on the 38th floor, the four bandits Hong Thong, Fersai, Satone, and Dabbing took the VIP elevator to their destination, the 45th floor of Genji Heavy Industries, smoothly and unimpeded. The bounty for target number 2 is 5 billion yen, plus the 3.5 billion for target number 1. In total, each of us can get at least $8 million. Satone adjusted the ferocious Russian GSHG-7.624 barrel Gatling machine gun in his hand and began to calculate the reward after the mission. "Don't be too confident. People who say such things in movies are often the first to die." Fersai's voice was still cold. "Hehe, that's not necessarily true. Since we are all gathered here, it means that we all have some special abilities to a certain extent. I believe everyone has their own way of escaping, right?" Hong Thong's tone was relaxed and happy. "We only have 3 minutes, and we'd better be fast enough." Dabbing, who was carrying a black aluminum alloy box, said in a deep voice. It seemed that he was the one who cared most about the mission in the team. "Ding, we have arrived at the 45th floor, please pay attention to opening the door safely." It didn't take too long to get from the 38th floor to the 45th floor. After a brief exchange, the four bandits had already reached their target. The mission officially began. Hong Thong adjusted his mood and hummed a melodious ancient syllable. Some power was gathering. Fire. Almost at the moment when the elevator door opened and Hong Thong's syllable fell, the gangsters in the elevator heard deafening gunshots and strong and dazzling flames. Among them was a rocket-propelled grenade that flew with a strong tail flame. The elites of the Shekiate Family Execution Bureau did not intend to spare the lives of these lunatics. They wanted to turn the VIP elevator into their coffin and cremate them. Boom. With a loud bang, the rocket-propelled grenade exploded, and the whole floor was shaking violently. The elites still held their weapons and pointed them at the elevator entrance filled with smoke. The second rocket-propelled grenade had been loaded. The man carrying the RPG wanted to move his position, but suddenly found that his feet seemed to be stuck in a swamp and could not move. The hard ground wrapped in steel plates became soft and sticky like a quagmire at some point. Many elites noticed this and wanted to quickly drag their feet out. After the explosion, they heard ancient syllables coming from the VIP elevator, which was still covered in smoke. The bandits were not killed in the explosion. The elite of the Execution Bureau did not bother to break free and immediately fired back. Several people burst out high-pitched ancient languages in their throats, trying to cast the word spirit. But the ground under their feet seemed to come alive. Several groups of black viscous liquid entangled their mouths, noses and bodies, dragging them into the ground, just like the evil spirits lurking in the swamp launched a hunting action on the prey trapped in the swamp. The smoke of the explosion dissipated, and the bandits appeared in front of the people trapped on the ground. There was an invisible stand that wrapped and protected them, just like an invisible protective shield, isolating all the incoming bullets and explosions. Word Spirit. Dust-free land, the dangerous word spirit ranked 66th on the word spirit periodic table. The person who released the word spirit was a mixed race wearing a red hood. He was at the front and sheltered the 3 bandits in the defense area of the dustless land. The female bandit wearing the Fark hood chanted ancient and long syllables and dragged all the elites in the corridor outside the elevator into the death swamp where the ground was twisted by the power of the word spirit. Word Spirit. Tanyan, a high-risk word spirit ranked 90 on the word spirit periodic table. The ground in the word spirit area will melt into other forms such as quicksand, swamps, and wetlands, or it can choose to maintain the previous form, and be freely controlled by the word spirit user. 2 minutes and 32 seconds left. Da Bing said in a deep voice, and the 4 people's steps became very fast. The hardness of the ground has returned to normal under the control of Farkai. The people dragged into the swamp by Tanyan also died in the ground. The only hands and feet that were not swallowed were exposed on the ground, which looked quite weird. 4-barreled gunner rushed to the front with his GSHG, -7.624 barreled Gatling gun, the barrels of which were always in a preheating rotation. From the 2 barrels of his 4-barreled gun hood, a faint golden light shone. Any enemy who relied on the bunker or hid in a dark room could not escape his eyes and was brutally torn to pieces by his machine gun. Yo. Scene. Seeing the blood and flesh splattering, 4-barreled gunner shouted excitedly. Word Spirit. Eye of Wind, a low-risk word spirit ranked 20th in the word spirit periodic table. When this word spirit is activated, the person who releases the word spirit can detect and capture even the slightest change in airflow within the site, the jet and pant when speaking, the wind raised by the sudden opening of the door, even the weak airflow left behind them when walking. 4-barreled gunner can immediately capture and confirm the opponent's position, and then tear them to pieces with the Gatling gun in his hand. Left, then right. 1 minute and 43 seconds. Da Bin, who was following the last of the team, said the direction to go and the remaining time. They moved quickly in this maze corridor that was as dense as a spider web. Anyone who blocked their way would be killed without mercy. Several security doors along the way were all open to the 4 bandits, as if they were the masters of this place. The deeper they went, the wider the corridor became. When Da Bin counted down to 70 seconds, they saw the silver-white metal door at the end of the corridor, so they slowed down. There are a lot of doctors gathered at the door. Kill them directly. Da Bin said coldly. Then we can't go to heaven. Although he said this, Tom still excitedly pointed the muzzle of the Gatling gun at the doctors and nurses who were crowded outside the door with terrified expressions. Blood gushed and flew, and in less than 10 seconds they became a pile of broken bodies under the terrifying firepower. As if awakened by the noise, a girl with silver-white hair slowly appeared in the sight of the 4 bandits, holding the metal door. The girl glanced at the bloody corpses at the door, and a sad expression flashed across her pretty pale face. Then, she looked at the 4 bandits who stopped because of her appearance, and a golden light shone in her eyes. She spoke, and the language that has been passed down from ancient times will reappear in the world at this moment. The word is death. I am so sleepy, I can't stand it anymore. I've been busy all day. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.